YouTube.com/Geek Aloud. It's a Tuesday night. It's 8 p.m-ish. So, of course, I'm here, Troy, hosting from my couch, but also joining us on his couch, Unkie. How you doing, my friend?
Mate, I'm doing very well, sir. It's been a big week in games. We've only got a few news stories tonight, but there's some big ones in there.
I tell you what, those news stories have had us game enforcers out in force, but we'll get into that in the news segment. Before then, however, Bully, you're also joining us, mate. How are you? Oh, why have I lost Bully's audio? Are you muted?
I've jumped out. Well, I've got two things running at once. But yes, very well, lads. Big week for Game Pass. I'm sure we'll touch on that during the show as well.
Yes, indeed. Now, somebody please tell me you've still got your Xbox up and hitting the refresh button on Deathloop as we go through the night. I would love to announce the second it's live. Not currently yet, I can confirm that much. But let me tell every viewer out there about the run of show. We start off with games, Interrogation and Deliberation. And this evening we have 7 games that myself, Unkie and Bully have been playing throughout the week. We'll deep dive into those. And then, of course, we have the news segment. Unkie Dunkie's been rounding up the news. As I said, we've had the enforcers out in force, trying to make sure everything's prim, proper, and above board. Some hackers out there causing chaos. Tisk, fellas. Then, of course, we have the Standoff, everyone's favourite segment. Unkie, please, sir, what can you tell us about this evening's rules of constraints for the Standoff?
Mate, this one's been brought about a real shit boss fight that I had in a game that I'll talk about very soon. We're not talking about the worst boss fights. We are asking you to list the most memorable boss fights. So we've got a list here. Hopefully there's a few on there that you've enjoyed yourself. Sound off in the chat and let us know if there's any we've missed or if there's any boss fights that you want us to call out at the end of the show.
Perfect, I love it. And then finally, as Unkie was just alluding to, segment 4 is audience interrogation. That's right, we flick the spotlight on over to you and we ask you some hard-pressing questions. Hopefully you ask us some hard-pressing questions in the chat throughout the show. But without further ado, let's get on to games, interrogation and deliberation. First up this evening, we have the Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 beta. Now, Unkie, first, mate, I need to thank you for alerting me that it was on. It had totally escaped my attention that it existed, Unkie. So thank you very much for letting me know. I immediately rushed out, traded in my copy of Horizon Forbidden West, recently platinumed it, handed over at EB Games. Now, if either of you didn't watch the install and don't know, I'm taking guesses. How much in-store credit value did EB Games give me for Horizon Forbidden West? Unkie, your guess.
I'm going to go anywhere between $18 and $25.
$3.99.
Here's the news, guys. $58. $58. Can you believe it? Physical media for the win. Stick your digital square up your clacker, Sony.
How much do you reckon they'll give me for my digital copy of it?
I reckon they'll give you precisely $0. But, mate, it looks fantastic sitting there on your blockchain. But without further ado, you're obviously looking at me playing very poorly. You can tell it's me playing because it says Troy J. But Unkie, this is really your lead investigation, sir. So I hand the reins over to you. Tell us things.
No, that's right. Yeah, definitely should take lead investigation on this because I'm pretty sure my kill-death ratio is a hell of a lot better than Troy's is right now.
Wouldn't be hard.
I don't know why, but I seem to be really good at Call of Duty. I seem to drop off these things and don't play them that much, but I jump back in and I'll have a couple of warm-up games and sort of, start cursing a bit, then sort of warm up into the maps a couple of times and then been hitting the, 20 kills a match with 8 deaths and stuff from the last few matches. So I dare say I'm sitting in the positive for KD at the moment. But initial impressions of this multiplayer, it's the beta's running flawlessly for me. The load times are quick as getting into games is really quick. The maps themselves I've been really impressed with. There's a map called... what is it? The Farm, I believe.
Oh, is that the old Farm?
I think.
Sorry?
Farm 18, I think that map is, yeah.
Yeah, so it's just a really well-constructed map. It's got indoor-outdoor areas that really sort of fold nicely into each other. I found myself sort of, finding some good, dare I say, camping spots, but they're not really camping spots because you're on a roof and anyone can sort of see you. You just got to sort of man it pretty well, and you can earn some pretty good kill streaks up there. But
Can I jump in there for 1 sec, mate, and just say I agree completely. Everything you said, it runs flawlessly. One of the new features, it was new to me. Maybe it's been there before. But to what you were just saying, mate, if you look here, as it zooms in after a death, you can actually see players in real time. If they are camping on a roof, you see them on that zoom and it gives you the drop to run in and get them. Sorry, Unkie, back to you.
No, that's fine. No, it's, again, I'm just enjoying everything they're doing. I know that they've also thrown in a third-person mode as well, which I wasn't a huge fan of.
That is news to me. I missed that.
Yeah, I think you've got to play the beta for a little bit. I think I'm up to level 10 and it unlocks different modes as you go through it, or the modes have been unlocking as the beta's been going. I think it ends tonight for us in Australia. I think the last time I played it was about 4 p.m. this afternoon and it had 11 hours left on the clock. But yeah, so if you go through, there's like a third-person mosh pit or deathmatch type games where you're literally running around in third-person view, but every time you aim down sights, it's in first person.
Yeah, right.
So
is that disjointing? It sounds like it'd be very throwy.
A little bit. So it's weird. I reckon if you were still aiming in third person, maybe, but the fact that it sort of takes a little while to then aim down sights from that third person view can be a little bit strange. You do obviously get a bit more broader sort of perspective of the game feel, or the, to see where people come from. Not that it matters for you because you've probably got your fisheye set to like 4,000.
I do.
It probably doesn't matter anyway, but it is a bit jarring. I'd like to see, I'm intrigued to see if the campaign sort of implements any type of third-person perspective, but a little bit different for Call of Duty. I like to see them trying stuff different, but the gameplay, it's real snappy. Playing on the PS5, the haptic feedback's really cool, as it always has been with the last sort of couple of iterations of Call of Duty.
Yep.
I can really see myself getting into this. I know Bully's been playing a fair bit of the last Call of Duty, and I did see him on Modern Warfare as well, so I'm assuming he's jumped on the pre-order bandwagon as well, Bully.
No, I don't think it'll be one that'll pre-order, but just out of interest, and I know Troy said about doing the trade-in to get the pre-order. I just jumped on this afternoon. I thought it was the same, that you had to have the pre-order or get one of the codes sent to you, but jumped on, downloaded it this afternoon, and have put it in probably 2 or 3 hours.
Which console, sorry, mate, was that?
On the PS5. Yep. And then my understanding is that there's another more open beta open next weekend anyway. So
next weekend includes Xbox.
Yeah. So I'd imagine that given that you can now jump on, if you couldn't already to start with the PS5, you can jump on, download it and start playing. As Unkie said, I think I jumped off about half an hour ago, and it's got about 8-ish hours to go.
Do you happen to know, Billy? Sorry, is that a PS Plus Deluxe like tiered benefit thing? I've got no idea. I'm just wondering.
No, I just jumped in the storefront. The Modern Warfare, if I can spit it out, beta was just sitting on the front splash screen. Hit download. There was nothing to do with PS Plus. Just downloaded it. Jumped on and started playing, as I said. And then hopefully, as I said, it's going to be open for other consoles as of this weekend. So if you haven't had a chance at it, it should be available on the weekend for everyone to jump into and have a good look at it.
It's exciting. 2 big thumbs up for me. I absolutely love my time with it. I second all of Unkie's comments. It's smoother than I was expecting. It's quicker than I was expecting. It's an absolute gem, and I've enjoyed my time with it. 2 big thumbs up. If you haven't played it, I say get onto it. Bully, your final thoughts, mate?
Probably echo that. I reckon the only issue I had, and it might have been because I've jumped on the back end of the beta and everyone's been playing it all weekend and sort of got used to all the maps and stuff, but just the bit of and it's not so much a grind, but just the level up system that you got to start with, where your guns start with no attachments and you got to sort of earn those. You get blown away in the first couple of games.
If during the gun selection, you can hit RB or whatever it is on your controller, and it'll tab across to like a custom. Like you've got custom, and you've got set weapons. If you hit RB, you can get a gun straight away that's got an assault rifle that's fully kitted up with all the stuff as well.
Pro tip.
Have a look at that. I've unlocked a whole bunch of stuff for a whole bunch of other weapons, but I still find myself jumping to that set-up assault rifle. So give that a crack if you're finding it tough with that initial, without a ADS or without like a little red dot sight or anything like that.
I think I've sort of now it's just a matter of people. You just need to prepare. If you're going to jump into it, you need to probably put a couple of hours into it just to get yourself up to a level where you're starting to get those attachments. You can modify your gun, and then you start getting into it a bit better.
Yeah, I was just going to claim my poor play was because I didn't have Unkie's pro tip then of the fully loaded out assault rifle. Clearly, all the bad playing you're seeing is just the lack of high-end assault rifle. Nothing to do with the thumbs on sticks. Operator error. Never. Unkie, did you have any final thoughts, mate, on this one?
No, just that I'm really excited for the final release now. I think just with the pure quality of the beta and the way it's running, I'm excited for the multiplayer for this, and I just cannot wait for the campaign as well for Modern Warfare. I absolutely love the Modern Warfare 1 remake they did, so I'm really excited to see what they do with the campaign now. So, no, colour me, excited for Call of Duty.
Yeah, I want to second that theory as well, mate. This would be the sharpest game I've seen released post-COVID, I would argue. And I know it's not the final release yet. We're only doing a beta test, but everything top to bottom is set to 10 in my mind. I don't have any complaints. I didn't see any glitches. I would argue the best-looking post-COVID release we've seen. Does anyone want to argue the point?
No, it's definitely up there. I think just it looks really good. It plays really well. It's really smooth. And it's just not even the way it plays. It's just, I think as I've said already tonight, the maps are so well designed that it seems fair to play. Like, you never feel like you're getting stuck up on. You never feel like characters or people are spawning behind you. Like, it always seems like a fair playing field. And there's so many different elevations. Like, each level has plenty of ways to go up or go down, go left, go right, go through. Like, they've just designed them really well. And I'm excited to see sort of what the other maps are, just because I'm getting so much fun out of the ones they've just given us in this beta.
Well, see, I reckon that's one of the issues I had is with the respawn points. I was respawning, taking 2 steps, someone would respawn behind me on the opposite team and shoot me in the back. I reckon that happened at least a dozen times when I was playing it, and that'd be my one criticism. They need to fix that up. And I don't know whether it was just you just happened to respawn at the same time while the rest of your team was moving on, or however it worked. But it happened to me, as I said, at least a dozen times.
I feel like... Sorry, Unkie.
I was going to say maybe you just have to ram that the fisheye up to about 400 like Troy so you can see behind you.
Eyes in the back of my head, I wish. I was going to say, I reckon I've had that with Call of Duty going back 10 years. Like, it's just a... You know, if you're playing for like a good, 3-hour session, I feel like once every half an hour, you'll just fall out of sync of spawn with the rest of your team. And to your point, exactly as you described, you just find yourself popping up and getting mowed down instantly. But I found it usually only lasts for about 5 minutes, and then you'll fall back in sync with your team, and you won't see it again for maybe another hour or something like that. So I totally know the thing, but I don't feel it's new to this game. For me, anyway. I've certainly found myself in that hole before.
And let's remember, this is just a beta. Like, this is so they can iron that kind of stuff out for the full release. So you'd like to think all that stuff's fixed come November.
Definitely, but what I was trying to say before, there's just no seams on this thing. It's high-end engineering. It's crafted to a fine degree. And to your point, Unkie, I can't wait to see what they've pulled off in the campaign, because the campaign is always notches above the multiplayer, and this multiplayer's flawless. So right there with you, Unkie, I am colour me totally excited, and I'm going to even hold on to that $10 pre-order at EB Games. That's how impressed I am with it.
I'm even going to follow through with my $138 digital pre-order.
Oh, Jesus! Tell me that was the highest end and there wasn't a tier above it.
I think it was another tier above, but I couldn't bring myself to spend the extra $5.50.
At that point, it makes sense to hold back the $5, Unkie. Yeah, definitely.
You never know when you're going to need
it. You might need to buy half a coffee at some point. All right, Game 2 this evening. It's a PlayStation gem. I've lifted this from. I'm waiting to get into it so I can remember it's 13's remastered. I haven't touched it at all. This is a trailer off YouTube. Unkie, lead investigate away, sir.
No, so this is definitely, we've obviously talked the last sort of couple of weeks about Last of Us being a remake, not a remaster. This definitely falls in the more of the remaster category. I never played the original remaster, which got absolutely panned for pretty much everything, sort of taking away from the original's luster. I think a lot of people did enjoy the first game and were excited about a remaster coming, but then very quickly jumped off it, given the fact that it ran poorly. I think it very rarely even hit 30 frames per second on next-gen consoles, which is definitely not good enough. No. So I was excited to initially play the remaster, but I obviously, as big a whale as I am, did hold off. Thankfully I did, because I've now picked up the remaster, and this thing does run very nicely at 60 frames per second.
And so your Xbox or PlayStation?
I've got this on PlayStation, actually. Normally I was jump on the old Xbox for these multi-platform games, but for whatever reason I wanted to see if it had haptics that might improve the experience.
How is it?
It's got nothing at all coming out of the controller, not even vibration, so there's that.
Wow.
Which does feel weird to play a game with no vibration whatsoever, but I didn't really, I don't know if I should have expected it. I don't know. It's definitely an old game from the past. You can sort of see that when you climb up ladders and your gun's still in your hand, you just sort of float up the ladder, and every enemy you see that or sees you just goes, alert, alert, and then they just yell and run. It's the same like voice thing every single time that you get spotted, which can be a little bit annoying. But you got to remember this is an old game, and they haven't redone the audio. Like the main character is still voiced by David Duchovny, which I found quite funny because he actually doesn't speak a whole lot, but they managed to fork out the money for David Duchovny for this game. And then you've got Adam West playing the main Admiral guy as well. I remember hearing his voice going, "Why is this so familiar?" I had to look it up because, oh god, it's Adam West being Adam West. It sounds like exactly like he does from Family Guy, playing this like Admiral that's like. I'm like, they got Adam West and David Duchovny, and they don't give him a whole lot to say. So I'm scared to think how much they paid for him. But
well, they might have been paying per line, mate. So maybe that's why they were very gentle on the script.
I just find it so funny that when I looked it up, he's the David Duchovny. I was like, I could. So I heard the voice. I know who this is, but I couldn't pick it straight away because he didn't have that many lines to say. So I had to wait every half hour just to find out whether he actually was going to say any dialogue. So, but no, it's got a solid performance. It now runs, flawlessly at the 60 frames per second. Hasn't dropped a frame at all. The gunplay is quite satisfying. It's a bit weird. Most of the guns don't really have too much feedback, but they still sort of feel good to shoot, and you get nice feedback of headshots, and you get that comic book style thing every time you hit a headshot. They've got good weapons. This mission you can see on the screen now is, I'm guessing, towards the end of the game because this is where I'm at the moment. I've played a fair bit of it. They give
How many hours?
Probably 4 or 5. So I reckon it's probably a 6-hour game.
Yeah, that'd be a fair call, I think.
They've added a few things like lock on when you aim down sights, which does make it feel better when you can lock onto enemies and flick between them quite quickly. And you got silenced pistols, you got crossbows, you got sniper rifles, rocket launchers. The shotgun actually feels quite good to shoot as well. But it's a cool little story. I don't think I finished it back in the day. I feel like I've passed the point where I got stuck at, which I think was the canyon area. I know Bullies played the original and got to the end from a conversation this week via text. So he might be able to speak to any difficulty he had in the original. But I found myself past that. And they do sort of throw up, for lack of a better term, good biomes. You're constantly changing areas and where you are. You're in a jail. You're in Bully shaking his head. We could call them levels, but they're biomes these days. Bully, it's, get along with the cool kids. That's what the kids are calling them these days.
Not a chance in hell.
You got the canyon biome. You've got this watery jungle biome.
Oh yeah, you're going to take me back to Mario 3 and go the first biome.
Biome 1.1.
Yeah,
level 1.1 biome.
And level 2.1 biome. It's just the water level, mate. Let's move on.
Come on. So it's got a few oddities as well. As I said, like climbing ladders, like inserting keys to a door where you've got a clear lock, which probably would have been an easy animation to fix, but no, you just sort of throw the key in the middle of the door and just sort of turn it and the door opens. But you've got conveniently placed hooks where you can use your hook shot in the middle of a canyon, which they just wouldn't be there hanging underneath it, so you can use it. So silly things like that. But no, I really enjoy these kind of art styles in games, the sort of cell shading stuff. And my understanding is that was one of the things they fixed in this remaster. This time around, a lot of people sort of, I think, didn't like the way they did the graphics in the sort of remaster initially, and they've gone back to that more cell shading, which I kind of enjoy. So no, it's been a fun time. I haven't had to think about too much by playing this game and just sort of having a good time. And when it's not having me at stupid fail states, which I do currently, which makes me think I'm not actually going to finish the game.
Well, I'm loving what you're saying, mate, and looking at it, it's visually spectacular. I'm very disappointed to hear there's no rumble feedback in the DualSense. That, to me, is unacceptable. I would say don't even purchase this until that's supported. That seems crazy in this day and age not to have it, but it does bring up to mind, what is the price of this game? How much are they charging?
I think it was $59.95.
Whoa, that sounds about twice as expensive as it should be based on everything you've said. How do you feel about that price being the one who purchased it, mate?
Yeah.
You feel value for money or hold off for a sale, do you reckon?
Yeah, hold off for a sale.
How does his wife feel about that price?
Doesn't know.
She has yet to regain consciousness from the Last of Us Part 1 purchase.
Yeah, she's worth that one. No, definitely hold off. Even now, I think it needs a patch because I'm literally at a point now where I'm like listening in on this conversation between an admiral and stuff, and I've just got to wait for it to play out. As soon as I go to the next checkpoint, every time it just says I'm causing an alert to go off, and I have no idea what's causing it. There's nothing on the level, and I don't know what I can do to fix it, let alone I might have to restart the whole level. Which, again, not horrendous. These levels don't exactly how long these levels are, but you can finish a level pretty quickly. So maybe I'll just go back and restart the level because, I can see myself finishing this game. Absolutely. I'm having enough fun with it.
Did I already ask you, mate, what's the trophy situation like?
Trophies aren't bad. Like I seem to be popping them at a fair click. I reckon I've got maybe 14 out of 40, maybe more now. But they seem to be popping pretty easy. I don't think it'd be too much of a tough platinum. So I could see myself doing it. I'm not sure what the end game's like and whether you get any, like, play the game with unlimited ammo or different guns or whatever. I'd like to see some kind of unlocks like that. I'm not sure if that happens, but I could see myself playing through it again because, as I said, not that long a game. If the platinum's not too hard, I could see myself maybe having a crack.
Nice one. No more thoughts from my side. Bully, how about you, mate? We may have got you muted, I think, Bully. Switching tabs, possibly. All right, well, we'll just push on, shall we? Game 3.
Oh, no, sorry, I've got one more thing to say.
Because
I actually alluded to it earlier in the fact that we've got the standoff. He's messaged me. Bully's laptop has crashed, so I'll be back very soon. So I was just going to say, like, I did allude to the reason the standoff tonight is good boss fights, because I did actually have one of the worst boss fights I've actually ever played in a video game, and it was in this game. You go through the whole game fighting enemies that are soldiers and stuff that you can take down in pretty much 1 or 2 shots. You get to this boss fight, this guy that's essentially a scientist, and he's got a knife, and he, for whatever reason, has got a boss meter, which I shot him with in the face maybe 50 times with a shotgun before he dropped, and he's zipping around the room throwing knives at me, and I'm just dodging him, and I'm like, this is ridiculous. This guy's got, there's no story reason at all for this guy to all of a sudden be superhuman, just tracking me around this room, throwing knives, throwing these weird poison bombs out of nowhere. I don't know where he got those from, but again, I don't know how this human can take 50 shots with some shotgun shells to the face and not be dead. Anyway, that got me thinking. I'm like, well, I've played a lot better boss fights in my time, and we're going to check those out tonight.
Perfect, mate. I love it. Well, without Bully here to ask, maybe we'll circle back if he's got any points. But Game 3 this evening. Now, this isn't Game 3, but it's important to note. Now, this game is called Bullets Per Minute. It came out last year. BPM, indeed. Bullets per minute. And this game was all about shooting on the beat. But look at the reticule. That's the key point here. Look at the way the beats come in, and then you shoot when they join up. Now we've jumped over to Metal Hellsinger, which in fact is Game 3 for this evening. And I just want to say they have swung and missed at their reticule for denoting the exact same experience of a PS4 game that came out last year that nailed it. They have just failed to execute here, and it has seriously negatively impacted my ability to score on the beat. They've just mismanaged the way that visual cue happens, the way the lines come in to indicate now shoot on the beat. It's meant to join up when it makes the diamond, and that's when you're meant to shoot. But because the diamond doesn't join all the time here visually, in the previous game, BPM, it was always there. That the diamond's always there, and the highlights come in on the beat and just make it easier to see. But by removing the solid diamond, it totally disabled my ability to hit that beat continually. That's my gripe. But over to you, Unkie, with your thoughts on Metal Hellsinger.
No, I found that a little bit too. I found in the demo, I found it easier sort of with the visual cues for whatever reason. Maybe it was just the first level and it was easier, and now I've played I think I'm like level 5 through. I've beat quite a few of the bosses now as well, but I found myself to be good at the game. I felt I was actually listening to the music and shooting on the beat as opposed to even looking at that reticle. And once I started doing that, I actually started hitting the beat much better. So I had to make a conscious decision. I was like, when I started actually banging my head like to these metal songs and shooting it on my beat of either my foot or my head as I was playing, once I started doing that, I was doing much better. So I don't know whether that's a hint whether you could try that, whether you can try the whole audio thing as opposed to the visual thing.
I understand what you're saying, mate, but believe me, I've put, I don't even know, hundreds if not thousands of hours into Guitar Hero and Rock Band and the like. You are talking to a gamer who knows rhythm games back to front. I can do bloody Guitar Hero, Rock Band, expert guitar bloody flawlessly. I know how rhythm games work. I know what the visual communication needs to be, and this game ain't it. But they could fix it with one simple patch. This game is so close to being awesome. They just need to patch in the reticule for correct display of the information. They could absolutely nail it, and until they do, I just have to bounce off this game. I'd love to get into it. Everything about this game says it should be awesome. They've even got Troy Baker doing the opener. Did you like the voice of Troy Baker?
Troy Baker as well. I did enjoy that, and I do enjoy the music and the way the game works. Like, it's essentially just Doom with sort of a rhythm game sort of mixed into it, and I really like the way the music evolves the higher you get. So you get to that 16 times skill multiplier, and then that's when the vocals kick in for the songs. And I really enjoy the way that works. It sort of incentivizes you to keep that skill streak going, which is probably why it annoys you so much that you actually can't keep that going by just with a better reticle, because you'd like to keep that gameplay up. And I can see 100%. Why you get much more enjoyment if you could actually get that visual cue as well. So, my point taken as well, because again, as I said, I did struggle with just those visual cues as well. As much as they do a really good job with the whole setup for the game, like you do have to hit the trigger, for quite a bit of time. They help you set up the whole, so you don't get that latency between your controller input and the screen. That's done really well. But I think, you're right. They probably could do something better with the actual on-screen reticle to give you that visual cue to tap it at the right time.
They could. As I said, they're so close. They just need to join up the diamond. And as I said, there was a game that came out last year that nailed it. So they just need to lift the design cues off those blokes, and it'd be perfect there. I've got a pop question for you, Unkie. I was hoping Bully was back. Any word from Bully? Is he close?
I haven't got my back. He said he's back when he can, so I'll send him a text, go how far off, and we'll see how we go.
Oh, I think he's here. I think he's just appeared, hasn't he? I think he's back.
Hey.
Hold on. I need to hit a button. Bully, can you hear us?
I can. Sorry, just having some technical issues here. The laptop crashed.
All good, mate. All good.
One of the most existential, great conversations of all time on YouTube. You weren't here for it, unfortunately.
No, I was watching you play that.
All right. I think I've fixed you there now, Bully. Hopefully that's come good. But, so, Bully, sorry, mate, I was slightly distracted. Did you say you fired up this game, or have you not gone hands-on at all? Fair point.
And there's no half-naked Japanese girls running around the screen either. So.
Just that fraction of a second off hitting the beat, which means not getting the maximum damage, and you almost can't play it unless you're constantly hitting that beat, which is what I sort of found.
Yes, that's the exact conversation we had, mate. And at the start, this footage may loop and you may see it. The point I was trying to make, and I feel like you just underscored it beautifully, was that there's another game that came out last year on the PS4 called Bullets Per Minute, or BPM. And the difference is their diamond in the middle is a solid diamond and the reticule comes in on the beat. It's the minorest tweak, but I can nail it in BPM, and I feel like I'm swinging and missing constantly in Metal Hellsinger. That being said, I'd love everything else about Metal Hellsinger, so I just wish I'd fixed the reticule and I'd be away with it. But now that I've got you both here and you've both gone hands-on, you've obviously both played through the intro level. You noticed it was Troy Baker, did you, Bully, doing the voiceover there?
I didn't. I think I had the rest of the sound turned down to get the music up, so I may have missed that, but I didn't notice. He's just about everything anyway, isn't he, these days?
He is, but my question to both of you is this: do you happen to know the gender of the protagonist?
I'm going to go female.
I'm going to go androgynous.
Well, I challenge anyone out there to fire up this game, the opening cutscene, and have a drinking game every time the pronoun's used, and you'll be shit-faced before you go hands on the controller. The most outrageous script I've ever heard, but that's my only knock on it. Other than that, fantastic game. Well, that, and they need to fix the reticule, and I'll be all about it. Unkie, any other points from you, mate?
No, the only point I'd say is it is obviously, as Bully mentioned, on Game Pass, so just, give it a go. If it's something for you, then it's not going to cost you too much other than that Game Pass subscription, so give it a crack.
Indeed. The only other tip would be use the headset directly into the controller, and that latency comes way closer to where it should be if you plug directly into the handset, is my other tip on that one. Sorry, Bully, any final thoughts 4.
Look, I understand that that's a major mechanic of the game is trying to hit the beat with your shots and stuff like that. I'd actually, in the age of accessibility and stuff like that, it actually looks like a really fun game to play. I just can't get there with the beat. I'd love to just see them have an option where you could just turn that off and just play it as a shooter and enjoy it for what it is. And the music and the music, I actually didn't mind it. The gameplay as it was, I didn't mind it. It's just trying to hit that beat. If you turn that off, I'd quite happily just go through and play it as a shooter.
That's a pretty great call, mate.
What difficulty were you on?
Just the standard, whatever the standard normal difficulty was.
Because I know if you chuck it down to easy, it actually does alleviate some of that because it creates a bigger window for when you can hit that beat. So it makes it. I dropped it to that and then found myself enjoying it a lot more just by dropping the difficulty because it's not a game where I'm necessarily in it for that difficulty. I just want to sort of play, as you said, for the music and the fun of the game. And I think maybe that's why I found it a bit more accessible because I just dropped it to that easy difficulty.
I can confirm I initially played it on the normal difficulty, but all the footage you're watching now is me playing it on the easiest difficulty, and you're right, it's far more accessible when you drop it down to the easy one. But saying the word accessible, I've got a question for you blokes. Who wants to answer this one? It's a game called Beats Per Minute. It's all about shooting on the beat. Why in God's name are subtitles on by default? No good answer? I didn't think so. Should we move on to the next game?
Let's do it.
All right, game 4. Wolong, what is it? Wolong, oh, God, I'm blanking on the rest of the name. Dynasty, something. I'm missing a word in there. Legend Dynasty? Someone look it up. Wolong Dynasty, Legends of Dynasty, something like this. Just became available this week. It was popped as part of a Tokyo Game Show. Hui, of note, it's by the same director who did the Neo 1 and 2 games. So if you're familiar with the Neo games and thinking, gee, this game looks like a spiritual successor, it certainly is. Wolong Fallen Dynasty. It's come back to me, Unkie. Did I nail it then?
You did nail that, sir. I was just about to come up, but I didn't want to interrupt.
No, perfect. What? Not interrupting? That doesn't sound like this show. Or is that just me? I try, people. I try not to interrupt. But this game is brilliant. I am such a huge fan of your Dark Souls-esque games and any spin on it. This game has that in spades. You fall down. You've got however much currency. I don't know what their currency is called, but, you've got a couple of $100 bucks on the line. The enemy who killed you has it. Get back to him, slay him. You get all your credits back. You don't slay him. It's gone for good. Standard Souls formula. You go to the flags, you rest, everyone respawns except for the big old bad guys. Full credit. This is running flawlessly. You're looking at it this is the PlayStation 5 copy, but I also fired it up on the Xbox Series X. And to my totally uninvestigated eye, I'm sure someone could probably pop open Digital Foundry and nail this for me, but I swear it runs a bit better on the Xbox. It looks fantastic and runs fantastic on the PlayStation 5, but then when I fired it up on the Xbox, I just felt like, oh my God, this is where they built it for. It's something about it. It's just a little bit silkier, a little bit smoother. Everything just runs a little bit finer. So my tip to you out there, if you've got the choice between Xbox and PlayStation, pick it up and play it on the Xbox. It's unfortunate that we don't have the DualSense controller because there's some bloody nice haptics running in this on the DualSense. Not there, obviously, on the Xbox One, but running the Xbox Elite Series 2, I want to say, is fantastic. I love using the back paddles because of my old arthritic hands. I can still access all those. But the level of attack options are phenomenal. You've got your standard light and heavy for what you've got, your sword play, light and heavy, but then you can flick over to crossbow, you can shoot stuff, but then you've got 4, what do they call them, like wizard spells, you've got, different fireballs, you've got your beasts you can summon in, and then you've got a whole parry system mechanic. I swear there's about 8 different skill trees of knowledge required to fully use all the attacks. And I've only been playing the demo maybe 3 hours at this point across the 2 consoles, nowhere near understanding half of one of those skill trees. So I can see there is tremendous depth available in the combat, in the countering system, summoning beasts, casting spells, and then range combat with bows or crossbows. This game has everything you could want, deep and complex battle systems. I can't recommend it highly enough. If you're somebody who likes your technical fighters and your Soulsborne games, this game is 100% worth checking out. Free now on PS5 and Xbox Series X and S, the demo. Pick it up. You're crazy if you don't. Bully, Unkie, have either of you fellas gone hands-on? Any thoughts?
No, I haven't. I haven't had gone hands on with it. I'm always of a mind, in general terms. I don't really like playing demos. If I see a bit of gameplay, like we're seeing at the moment, that's enough to pique my interest, and that I'll leave it at that, and then pick it up when it comes out. I just find, especially, you can play some demos that just give too much away in the gameplay, and then you sort of come back to 12 months and you're not as interested or whatever. So I sort of tend to have a quick look. Yep, that gauges my interest, move on, and then when it comes out, I'll jump into it.
Totally fair call, mate, and I'm with you 100%. I'm not going to invest the time in the demo to start understanding those so many layers of attacks and defense, combat engagement options that are available there. Off the charts. I don't know of a game that has that many levels of combat. Like, this to me is setting new heights. It's the level of complexity is mind-boggling, and I'd love to drill into it and learn it, but to your point, Bully, 100% the demo is not the place. The demo is a place to wow me and go, holy moly, there's a lot of techniques here to learn, but to your point, mate, I've probably done with it for now, but I know this is a day one purchase for me, no question. Unkie, have you gone hands-on, mate? Any thoughts?
Yeah, I did go hands-on. I was surprised to actually get a demo because they showed this game sort of a pretty decent showing at the Tokyo Game Show, and I thought that was sort of enough to whet my appetite. And then when I saw there was a demo, which I think was from the install from you, I didn't realise there was one until then. So I jumped on, and I was, as you said, was better on the Xbox. I jumped on the Xbox first thing, didn't give the PS5 version a go. I did notice a few frame hiccups on the frame rate mode that wasn't as smooth, and by all reports there is sort of the news going out there that it's not running as smoothly as it will in the final version, but it's very much Neo 3 from what you've said, and it's going to be a very hard game. As much as I love Neo, I've never finished any of those games. To get to a point of no return where I'm either up against a boss or an area I just can't get through. So I know they've touted this is going to be a very hard game, so I don't know how much I'm going to put into it. But as Bully said, with these type of games especially, I find it hard to play a demo because my way of playing these games is to sort of dig deep at the start and then grind away and get my character kind of over-leveled. And that's kind of where my enjoyment starts with these games, where I feel like I can overpower my enemies. And I don't feel like I can do that in a demo, or it's just not worth my time because it's not a character I'm going to be playing through the main game. So I jumped in, played it for a little bit, saw that I enjoyed the combat. As you said, like, you need to almost have a fifth hand to be able to play this game with the amount of things you can do on that controller. Like, I was going through that tutorial going, okay, they're throwing another mechanic at me and another mechanic and another mechanic. I'm like, I'm already playing Xenoblade Chronicles 3 that does that for me. So as you said, it's a great developer. It's, Soulsborne type game. I'll probably definitely pick it up day one. Let's face it, it's me. I'm probably.
Wait a minute. Have you already pre-ordered that? Unkie, be honest.
No. This is the one that I say I'm probably not going to get on day one, and then let's face it comes out, and we're going to want to talk about it, so I'll probably get it.
Very good. I love it. Unless there's any final thoughts from you, Bully, shall we move along?
Oh, you can. Obviously, his wife's in the room. That's why he says you can't pre-order it. But
very good. All right, now this one's over to you, Bully, for the investigation of Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I believe recently added to Game Pass.
Yeah, it was, and that's why I sort of jumped into it. As luck would have it, there was a sale on as well for the DLC. So I think the season pass, in general terms, was about 60 odd Australian dollars. It was down to 22 off the top of my head. So not bad value. I wouldn't have thought if you're getting the full base game for free on Game Pass, you're getting the DLC for a third off. I put about 2 to 3 hours into it, and then was showing a young fella the map, and he was overwhelmed with how big it was, and he's interested in jumping in it as well. And at that point, I sort of looked at it, having put, I reckon, probably 60 or 70 hours into it when it first came out. I then re-looked at the map and gone, do I really have the temperament to go back into a game this size and put that time and effort in again? So
here you go, Billy. I got it for you, mate. 214 hours was my playtime on PlayStation, and I 100%. I got the platinum, and I 100%ed all the DLC. call it 215 hours if you want to see the full breadth of this masterpiece of a game.
There's your answer, Billy. It's a hard pass.
It's funny though, because I found myself getting at the same time starting to get sucked into it, and on the other hand, sort of going, oh yeah, there was these little things that annoyed me a little bit with it that probably Valhalla just did a touch better with some of the sort of the minute to minute sort of gameplay stuff. But I love Greek mythology. I love everything that they throw into this game. There's all the mythical creatures. There's all the the tales and all that. So I grew up reading that sort of stuff. So I've got I would consider a pretty good understanding of most of it, and it's just weaving that into the gameplay as you're going along. If you haven't checked it out at this stage, and I know it's probably I think it was 2018, so 4-year-old release. It is free on Game Pass. Jump into it. It still looks still looks pretty good. Probably. Well,
it's been given the real Xbox Series XS upgrade treatment, 60 frames a second, HDR. It's got all the bells and whistles you could want.
Yeah, and that was the other thing I was looking at as well, because I don't think that there is a PS5 upgrade for it. Which I was the same as you, Troy. I played it on the PS4 originally when it came out, but I'd suggest if you're going to go back into it, do it on Game Pass. As you said, it's got the nice graphical tweaks on it. If your TV can work through that sort of stuff. The gameplay's still fantastic. It looks great. Great story. All the rest of it. From what I can recall a couple of years ago, I highly recommend it. So just jumping back into it again.
2 massive big thumbs up from me. I absolutely love this game from top to tail. I loved it so much. I fired it up today to capture this footage, and it may have gotten one of its hooks already in me. I might be just throwing a few more hours in this in my off time. How about you, Unkie? Any thoughts on this one?
No, I've still got it installed on my console, and I jump back in every now and again, just sort of that Greek mythology stuff, and I just love the setting for this game. That's one thing I think it has it over Valhalla. I think Valhalla looks pretty similar the whole way through. Like, you got a few different biome, Bully, with like the snow and the grass, but it can look a bit samey. I just prefer the whole beach sort of tropical setting. It just feels like you're on holiday when you're stuck at home, and it's just a nice sort of thing to look at. The only thing I prefer with Valhalla is gameplay. I like that they've got that option to play Valhalla like the old school Assassin's Creeds, where it's not level gated. You can play it stealth, and stealth kills. You can kill enemies in one go if you want to put that setting on. That's not in this, so you can still get to the point where you got high tier enemies where you do an assassination, they still don't die. So that's one little annoying thing which I really liked what they did with Valhalla. So, but no, great game. This is probably my favourite Assassin's Creed. If it wasn't this, it'd probably be Black Flag. So.
Oh, well, for me, Valhalla still wins because of the hammer and then those glow effects that happen when you poison the hammer and it's got the green flames coming off and then you bring the hammer down! Oh, Valhalla, you speak to me on levels. All right, Bully, final thoughts, Eddie?
Well, I was just going to say, you mentioned Valhalla. I put it out to you boys on the weekend. Which one should I jump into? I think I got... Unkie gave me nothing. He just goes, oh, yeah.
Odyssey.
Play Odyssey. Oh, but what about this? All right, we'll play Valhalla then. Well, whatever. So absolutely gave me nothing. But I'm almost, if I can get myself back into it fully, I reckon I'd almost play through this and then back on to doing Valhalla again. Because same thing with that. I reckon I put 40 or 50 hours into it. I know that critically it had a few knockers on the gameplay and sort of some of that sort of stuff, but it's probably not quite up to the same setting as Odyssey, but I still really loved it. The Vikings and the old English and British sort of, I think that would have been the Dark Ages back then they'd refer it to. So that sort of intrigues me as well, but I can see myself sort of doing those back to back and then, hopefully when they release Mirage, from what we've seen with that, it's a much shorter game, so I won't be putting a couple hundred hours into it.
Yeah, maybe when I quit my job and have an extra 400 hours a week to play these games, I might do that.
So what you're saying, Unkie, is when you hang up the badge and come and work for Geek Aloud full-time, you'll be throwing hundreds of hours into Assassin's Creed. That's what I'm
mate, I'll do whatever I need to do. If I could play video games for a living, I'd bloody do it.
Oh, isn't that the dream? All right, that'll probably do it for Assassin's Creed. Oh, one of the knocks, sorry, Bully, I was just going to say, one of the knocks on Odyssey was, of course, you had the terrible option of a female lead character, but as you can see here, they were smart enough to include a male lead character, which is the way to go. So that's my tip there on Odyssey.
No.
All right, then. On to something females are renowned for being fantastic at. But I am sucking at parking myself. This footage was captured by me today, and you can see how much I suck at parking. But who's taking this one? Unkie, I believe you're lead investigating, mate, so over to you.
Yeah, mate. I don't know why, because I also sucked at parking as well, which I think is the name of the game. I got through the first levels, which you're doing right here, relatively easily, which it gives you.
I didn't.
I mean, it's sort of platforming, so I can forgive you there. But no, I'm up to the second island now, maybe the third island. It started to incorporate magnets, which drag your car around the level. My God, I've never had this level of infuriation in a level before, because it is so hard so early. I don't know how anyone. Why don't they chuck it on Game Pass? Because if I'd spent money for this, I'd be getting a refund, because I'm like, this shit's hard, man.
Yeah.
It's fun. Like, don't get me wrong, the mechanics are cool. Like, you can't reverse, so once your car stops, it stops, and that's where your car's parked. And I've managed to perfect a few levels where, to perfect the level, you need to essentially just do it. However many parking spots are on each level, you have to do that with however many cars. So, say you've got this level here that's got 2 parking spots. If you can do it with just 2 cars, then that means you get the perfected score for the level. Troy's looking like he's spent 100 cars for these 2 spots.
There was actually 20 minutes of footage of me trying to do this level before this footage started.
Oh, Jesus, Troy, you're bad at games. And you call yourself a gamer. No,
this is the good run.
That was just the opening area. No, it is fun. It's a fun little arcade game. It's kind of like your Micro Machines kind of mechanics and levels, and you can upgrades for your cars and all that kind of stuff. The levels are fun. They are bite-sized, so you sort of race through them and you can restart as quick as you want. You do have as many cars as you like, I think, per level, so you can just keep dying and doing it until your time runs out. So you do get 10 seconds, I think, every time you land a park as well, which looks like Troy never actually did. So I'm not sure if he knows about that mechanic or not, because it looks like he's done this level and that's all he did. Boy, I know you've spent some time trying to park. Did you suck?
I didn't suck this badly in the levels.
I don't think 3-year-olds suck this badly at this game. That's
I must have.
There's something special.
But I agree with you though. It's quite funny because the first couple of levels you play through and it sort of sucks you in, that you go, oh yeah, this is not too hard. I'll get the mechanics behind it, and oh yeah, they'll just open up the tracks a little bit and you've got to drive a bit further. And all of a sudden you've got instead of the barriers being the tyres, they as soon as you touch them, they blow up. Yeah. They blow your car up, and then you've got to start doing all these jumps, and you got to jump, and then this other thing will push you up into the air, and it gets bloody hard, bloody quickly. I agree with you, Unkie. But having said that, I'm just I can't.
It got bloody hard, bloody quickly for Troy too, like level 1.
I think this game is fantastic. I enjoyed it as poorly as I played it. Shit, that I had some fun crashes. Oh, here's a question for you. Obviously, it's a me issue. Why isn't retry the first option when you're dead? Like, surely I should just die and then be able to hit A and restart. But no, I'm going to go down 1 and then A to restart a level. That's granted a me problem. I'm probably the only one doing so many restarts.
Pause it before you hit. It'll the first button will be retry.
Yeah, I reckon I'll start and retry straight away.
Well, they need to incorporate that of when you run out of cars and time and petrol and they get to the end menu. Retry should be the first option.
I wonder if Troy's the only player that's hit the limit of cars you get. Like, for all of us, it seems unlimited, but Troy's probably hit that limit a few times now.
If you want to make yourself feel even worse, have a look at the leaderboards on some of these. I thought the first couple of levels, I'm doing all right. And, like, I think the first one I did it in 14 seconds or something like that. And then you look at the leaderboards, it's 7 seconds. So we're going, how the hell do you do it in 7 seconds?
I know. You pull it off, you go, yep, I haven't lost a car. I've done this real quick. I've got to be top 10. You're like 1,000, like 400,000.
Yeah.
Oh,
who's doing that, and what sort of bizarre alien skills / hacking are you using to get that number?
Oh, it's got to be.
It's the complete inverse of my skill set, whoever it is. I should try and put this up to the arcade stick.
I don't know if that's going to help you even, Troy.
mildly concerned about you going down to the shops to get some milk now.
It's all right. I typically don't drive, Bully. I don't subject other drivers to my terrible driving unless it's in a simulated experience.
It's called You Suck at Parking, but I think, Troy, this should just be called You Suck at Driving, full stop.
Just you suck at gaming. You could really just encapsulate the whole vibe.
You're not that bad. Come on.
Yet to pass level 2 of the tutorial.
You did Platinum Elden Ring, so that's probably still one in front of you, Unkie. You might be able to park a car, but you can't Platinum Elden Ring.
I mean,
all right, that can only mean one thing. It's time for Game 7 this evening, and it's Spec Ops The Line. Whoa, is this game a lot of fun? Oh, before I forget, bang, it's currently $10 on Xbox backwards compatibility. If you've never played it, stop listening right now. Go drop $10 on it, and this is an absolute gem and a must-play. Does anyone want to back me up on the fact of the quality of this game and the necessity of going in clean, spoiler-free if you can?
Definitely a must play. Play it spoiler free. It's got one of the best twists in video games ever towards the end. My only downside is that I really wish they would give this thing a Series X update. I want 60 frames per second. It's hard playing at 30 frames per second. But main character is voiced by one and only Nolan North himself. So if you want another Nathan Drake experience with slightly darker sort of tone, then go for this.
This game's absolutely fantastic. It's from the heyday of, 2012 cover-based shooters. If you're a cover-based shooter fan, this is it in spades. They've done everything about it. Well, granted, it's 10 years old at this point. So as Unkie was saying, you've got to be a bit forgiving on specifically the flame effects. Anywhere there's fire, you can see the 10 years of it. The 30 frames a second is far from ideal, but those things aside, they're so minor. Drop the $10. Play this game. It's one of the best campaigns ever. From memory, guys, is it about a 16-hour playthrough, the campaign? Does that sound right?
It sounds long for, I would say anywhere between sort of 10 to 15. But again, it's been a while since I've finished it. So,
well, we just saw me trying to pass a tutorial of You Suck at Parking and how long that took. So
I know, you can forgive me for that checks out. That definitely checks out.
How about you, Bully? Have you played this one? Is this in your Hall of Fame, so to speak?
Yeah, I haven't played it since it originally came out. If I can get that out, if I won't spoil it, it's still, I know, one of the great storyline twists at the end. And you talk about the graphics that you have to forgive. That's right smack bang in the middle of the Xbox 360 grey/brown palette going on as well that you can see there as well. And you reckon they could throw a shade of green somewhere or blue or something?
They are in Dubai, full of sand, so they don't really have too many options.
Well, what was their excuse for the rest of them then?
Well, I don't know. Maybe Spec Ops is on another level.
There you go. And I just had a look. So Spec Ops The Line, 6 hours to run through and a 15.5 hour-ish for 100% completion as well.
There you go. Oh, and I can say the completion requires 2 playthroughs, one on the second hardest and one on the hardest difficulty. Maybe that's where I got my teeth kicked in and ran up the clock a little bit.
One thing I do enjoy with more recent games is they've gotten rid of difficulty run-throughs. Even Naughty Dog have gotten rid of difficulty run-throughs for trophies, which I think is fantastic.
I believe the only holdout there would still be Call of Duty. I'm pretty sure Call of Duty still has complete the first 4 chapters on the hardest difficulty for an unlock. I'm pretty sure that's still a thing. But I reckon that is the exception to the rule.
The Wolfensteins.
Oh, do they still have it as well, Bully? Good call, mate. Good call.
2, and I know that's going back a couple of years ago now, but there was the infamous Mein Leben trophy. So you had to crank it up to the hardest difficulty level, and you had to get through that entire game without dying. If you died, you went back to the very start of the game.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, that's a hard pass from me on that one.
I've done it twice.
Hashtag real gamer. Of course you have, Unkie. Of course you have. All right, guys. Just play this game. That's all that you need to know about it. All right, that'll bring us on to the overtime. Unkie, kicking us off, mate. I understand you've been into deep, matured theme games similar to Spec Ops The Line, dark, gritty tale, mate. What have you been playing?
Yeah, no. Now I sort of gave Bully shit last week for this, but I have to renege and take it back because on Game Pass I downloaded a little game called Disney Dreamlight Valley. Just kind of as a joke initially, just to say that I played it. And then it kind of sucked me in, and I had to concede to Bully that it was actually quite enjoyable. And for a reason I don't even really know. Like, it's kind of, as Bully sort of alluded to last week, it's sort of a relaxing experience where you're not really having to think too much. It's busy work where you just sort of rocking around, very Animal Crossing-esque, as Bully said, but even sort of simpler than that. But it's the Disney characters you've got there and the sort of tasks you're doing and the whimsical music in the background that just makes it an absolute delight to play. It's like brings out the kid in you again, just listening to these tunes come through and just seeing the characters and interacting with them and stuff. And I think that's partly what the game's about, is they've had this like darkness take over the world and you're sort of trying to bring back the light. And I think it's sort of trying to pay homage to sort of, adults. You forget about how much fun all this stuff is as a kid, and then you sort of grow up and you forget about it, the magic of Disney, and then you play this game and it sort of reinvigorates that in you as well. I don't know whether that's what the game is trying to get at, but that's kind of what I got out of it. It's just a lovely little experience and starting to get a little bit grindy now for where I am and what I need to do.
Can I ask how many hours in that is?
It's probably 5 or 6, which I never thought I'd put that hours in, but it's just, I find myself just like, one more task. Bully could probably attest to this. You just feel like, I'll just do one more task for Mickey. And then you're like, then Goofy comes over and he wants me to catch some fish. I'm like, fine, I'll do that. I need to update like Scrooge McDuck's his friendship meter. So I'll go buy blue things for Merlin. And it's just, I don't know, it's a stupid game with not much to do really, but then you've got the hook of...
Do they have the Scrooge McDuck vault that you can dive in from the...
No, he's got his own little sort of business that he's running, and he sells all the items that you can buy for your own house.
Of course he does.
Your house and fill them up, and that changes day to day and all that kind of stuff. But you unlock, you got to get sort of points and coins throughout the game, and the sort of main currency for the money is just essentially just money. But then you've got this other Dreamlight stuff that you unlock to unlock new worlds. So first one I unlocked, I went to the Moana's world, and that was playing the theme song in the background and quite cool, and you meet the characters and you do her quest line to recruit her to your world. And now I've just jumped into the Frozen world and done some quests there, and that's sort of where I've hit a bit of a stalemate. They want me to collect some iron ore, and there's only one place you get iron ore, and that's in these parts that are off from the main world, but you need to be able to get through them. You need to get all your friendship levels up with 3 characters up to level 5, which means doing all their tasks, and that could take quite a while. So I'm sort of hit a point where it's a little bit grindy, but Bully's probably hit that point as well, I would say, unless he's sort of surpassed me now.
Oh, you're muted, mate.
That's right. Sorry, I've jumped past that bit. So just a bit of a trick for you. If you go to any of the characters you need to level up their friendship and ask them to hang out and then go around doing your tasks. So if you go and, farm your lettuce or dig the rocks or go fishing, whatever, it actually gives whatever you do as part of that. It also gives points towards the friendship. And you can also, if you go into the options or I can't remember which one of the menus it is, but it tells you about each of the characters in the game. It'll tell you what their favourite gifts are. And if you can find that, it basically jumps 1.5 to 2 levels at a time. It'll jump your friendship level as well. So there's just a bit of a trick for that. But I agree with you, Unkie. I reckon it's busy work. Agree, it's probably a bit of a dumbed down version of Animal Crossing, but I really enjoyed it. Just the characters, it's takes you back to being a kid. I don't know what it is. It's something about Disney that I'm always interested in for some reason. I don't know why, and it throws a bit of enough gameplay to keep you going, and that little bit of, like you said, that little bit of hook of, if I just go and do this, then I can do this, and then I can get to that world. And then you get to that world and you go, I may as well just start doing a little bit of it just to see what it's like. And next thing you know, you've played it for 4 hours and, you're down
that rabbit hole.
But I reckon that the opportunities for expansion on this, if it stays in Game Pass, but you've got, how many different Disney licenses and movies and settings and all that sort of stuff that they could work through, and just I can foresee this sort of being, whether they release that as DLC down the track that you would have to pay for, I don't know, and this is sort of to whet your appetite, but I can see little snippets of stuff coming out over a 3, 4, 5 year period of just dumping in new characters, new worlds, and that sort of stuff, and sort of keep people engaged for that long period of time.
So I'm hearing Disney Infinite. Is that what we're going for?
Yeah,
well,
kind of.
I reckon it's almost the same thing, but better and without the toys. So, instead of having the toys, you'll just have the DLC that you download and throw into it.
Yeah, nice one.
It's got a pretty robust character creator as well. Like you can create a character that looks like myself, and you unlock good clothing options and stuff. Yeah, let's say it's probably the best interpretation. Not the best one I've done, but he looks pretty similar to that. But my little fella thought it looked like me, so I'll take that.
Nice.
But yeah, I know. And Bully probably test this. There's something about the sound effects and the stuff you pick up. It has a really satisfying sound every time you're just picking this stuff up as well. That's part of the hook. I don't know.
Do they have a little rumble maybe in the controller?
Nah, no rumble. It's just a nice little pop noise that it makes when you pick stuff up, and I don't know. It's just it's very satisfying.
Well, I was going to say, Troy, just before we finish off on it, the other thing that is actually interesting, I don't think I've seen it in any other games. There's actually an option in the settings for a streaming mode that it will turn off licensed music for each of the worlds or each of the areas and just have a generic soundtrack behind it, so that you don't get hit with a copyright strike on YouTube or any other sort of streaming platform.
Yeah, that's been relatively common the last 3 or 4 years. Fair few games have done it. The one that jumps to mind immediately is Cyberpunk's definitely got that option.
So what he's saying, Troy, is that when you inevitably get hooked on this game as well and spend your next 5 hours streaming it, you're all good.
Well, what I can say is that I haven't gone hands-on myself, but I have watched my boys play it. It's been a school holiday absolute treat here. The boys have been throwing in the hours in the living room on their Xbox, and I walked past at one point, and they're in their house, whatever, they just had a coffee table that had Mickey Mouse's head in it. And for whatever reason, I had the nostalgia trip just looking at the coffee table in my son's house. I went, I remember that from Saturday Disney. It just took me all the way back. So even just as a casual observer of the game, it's certainly got a lot of tropes that pull you straight back to the nostalgia. I can certainly hear what you guys are saying, but having watched my sons play it, I know it's certainly not one for me.
All it needs is a 60 frame per second mode, because it does currently only run at 30 frames. But I find weird because a game that's not doing a whole lot, it does look very pretty and very Disney-like. I just wish it ran with a slightly higher frame rate.
Very good. All right, so that's it for your overtime, Bully. Sorry, Unkie, you spent all your overtime this week just in the one game, I take it?
Yeah, that was mainly overtime. As I said, I've been playing a lot of other stuff, so there wasn't much overtime for me.
Very good. From my side, just a couple of quick ones. The first one, Battlefield 2042. We're now week 3 of this season pass, and I'm absolutely loving this game. The maps in it are fantastic. I'll give them one knock, though, for one of the new maps has a structure in it that you can't destroy with C4. It's the first time ever in a Battlefield game, excuse me, where there's been a strategic target building that you couldn't just level, which is really disappointing to me as an old school fan. I loved it when you could rubblize the entire map. I feel like it's a cheap gameplay trick. That being said, the new maps themselves are fantastic. If you've been hanging off playing the Battlefield 2042, as we've said previously, it's down to like $5 at the retail shops. Pick it up, go hands-on. The new maps are fantastic. The current battle season, we're only 3 weeks into 12, and so it's a great time to drop you, I don't know, $13, $14 to get the battle pass, unlock all those missions. The missions have me hook, line, and sinker. I'm in there, I'm playing multiple rounds, and it's keeping me up late at night, just the way I like to be kept awake at night. It's perfect. I love it. But that's it for Battlefield 2042, assuming you blokes had no input on it?
Nope.
No, good, mate.
Very good. All right, then the final one for me is not a game as such, but Cyberpunk Edge Runners dropped onto Netflix in the past week. I believe it was in the past week. It may be slightly longer than a week, but I just watched the first 2 episodes yesterday, and me being the goose I am, accidentally watched episode 2 than episode 1. But I'm going to say, if you haven't watched it yet, do it in that order, because, my God, it's a way more compelling story being thrown in the deep end of episode 2, trying to piece it together, and then being spoon-fed the data from episode 1. It's very much like watching a Quentin Tarantino film for the first time, but a thoroughly enjoyable experience. If you haven't watched it yet, 1, it's definitely worth watching. I've dropped, I would have to double check the clocks, but over 100 hours into Cyberpunk on both Xbox and PlayStation. I've finished the game multiple times on both platforms, so I'm well versed with the Cyberpunk 2077 world. So jumping into episode 2 of Edge Runners was no real dramas, but fantastic, absolutely fascinating. Then going back and watching episode 1, filling in the missing bits of data. just an absolutely riveting story, and I can't wait to mow through the remainder. I believe it's at 7 or 10 episodes, however many's left. I'm excited to get into it. Unkie, have you viewed it at all, mate?
Yeah, funny you say that. I actually have watched episodes 1 and 2 in the correct order, so I can confirm it works just as well the way it's meant to be. This is choice platforming all over again. You can't even get TV show watching right in order. You just watch them back to front. But no, episodes 1 and 2 I have watched, and yeah, really enjoyable show. And it's thank God I reinstalled Cyberpunk when the Edgerunners DLC came out sort of last week, I think it was.
Yep.
And it looks like Cyberpunk's actually saw a massive sort of influx of players as well with this DLC and everything, which is nice to see. Obviously, similar to what happened when The Witcher brought it to TV show. They got a massive influx of players. So it's good to see with this update, which has added a whole bunch of stuff, which we've talked about previously on the show, with this Edgerunners stuff as well. And it's such a really well put together anime and really fun to watch. And from what I've seen so far, I'm going to be watching the whole season absolutely. It definitely doesn't censor anything. It's definitely up there rating wise. So if you're a kid, don't probably a few things in there. I know Troy knows what I'm talking about. That you probably, parents with younger kids probably don't want seeing. But definitely a very edgy, very stylized show, and really, really good. And it's really got me back in the cyberpunk ways. And Troy, I'm probably not speaking for myself when I say that when that ringtone goes off in the show, it just sounds exactly like the game of someone making a phone call. It's almost like, I've got my game on in the background.
Yes, little triggers. But to your point, Unkie, the soundtrack is phenomenal. I love their choice of music for the opening title scene, but their music throughout is fantastic. I absolutely love the soundtrack. The characters are some of the most compelling characters I've seen in a TV show, I reckon, in the past 5 years. I would challenge either of you. Well, Bully, have you seen Edgerunners before I challenge you to name a character better rounded than these guys?
Have not seen it, and I think I've said in the past, I don't know what it was with Cyberpunk. I know everyone says once you get through the bugs and it's been patched out, fantastic game. I reckon I've kicked it off 3 or 4 times. I've only ever been able to put in about 4 or 5 hours into it each time. It just, for some reason, just doesn't do it for me.
Fair enough, man. It's fair call then that I'd say maybe give the show a miss as well. It mightn't be for you. But I think just the way they've written the characters are absolutely phenomenal. It's so right up there. Like, I loved, what's his name? Johnny Silverhand in the actual game. Obviously, these are nothing to do with that character, but just the way they've rounded out his character in the game, they have done it for multiple characters in the TV show. This is just top-tier narrative writing. I'd ask you, Unkie, maybe contrast the characters and the sort of way they've rounded them out, the multi-dimensional, they've given multiple characters. How does that fare against the Halo show?
A fair bit better, Troy.
There's actually character development here. I couldn't believe it.
What?
Do we get any Johnny Silverhand in the buff so far?
No. Well, I've got to say, I mean, no spoilers, but there's a bit of nudity in the show already, and it's probably a bit more risque than Master Chief's buttocks. That's all I can say.
It is a full-on bloody... It woke me up. Speaking of it woke up, I was watching it as I was trying to drift off to sleep, and it just, what's going on here? What?
Speaking of tripod.
And if you do happen to watch them out of order, I'm going to say the twist ending at the end of episode 2, having not watched episode 1 first, really sticks its knife in and jacks you up. Ending number 2 without the pretext of number 1 is just a phenomenal experience, and I can't recommend it enough. But that is it for my overtime. Unkie, did you have any final thoughts on Cyberpunk Edgerunners on Netflix?
No, other than if you're a Cyberpunk fan, watch the show.
2 big thumbs up from me. Absolute must watch. Now, Bully, I understand you're in the bad books and received absolutely 0 allocation of overtime. Is that correct?
Well, I've been handing it out this week. I handed Unkie the gift that keeps on giving with Disney Dreamlight Valley, and we'll leave it at that.
Very good, mate. I love it. Now, everyone knows that can only mean one thing. We're off to, if I can find the button, the news. You have the right to remain newsworthy. Oh, and I love this new setup because I can't forget to preload that tab. Isn't that just fantastic? Go back to the first 38 on episodes of the show and I've forever got that transition wrong. All right, first up tonight, Unkie Dunkie, I'm going to hand it straight over to you once I say that the Tokyo Game Show 2022, in a summary article by IGN, sums up everything that was announced. Mate, over to you. Please take us through it.
Mate, yeah, we had a big week. Obviously, Tokyo Game Show was on this last week, and there was a lot of different shows held by people. We had Sony drop shows, Capcom drop shows, Nintendo, I think, had a show in there somewhere. Microsoft outweaved everyone, which was surprising considering Sony, should own that space. But I think Bully's on that same opinion. It's Xbox absolutely owned that part, and I thought theirs was probably the best show across the Tokyo Game Show. But in looking at, I think IGN sort of had probably the best article to find in terms of showing us what was actually probably worth seeing. There was a lot of other sort of Japanesey games out there, a lot of farming simulators throughout the Nintendo presentation. But here we had first up was Tekken 8, which I thought was a really great showing. I'm not a huge fighting game fan, but god damn, this thing looked pretty. and from all accounts, it's all in-game graphics and stuff in this game, and I was just very impressed by that trailer. I'm not sure if you guys had a chance to check it out.
I looked at that trailer, mate, and I'm an old school Tekken fan. I don't know if anyone remembers my old story of the way I learnt fighting games was Tekken 1 with the PS1. The glove, was it called? I can't remember. But nostalgia trip for me. I absolutely love the Tekken series. I have a long, solid history with it, and I cannot wait to go hands-on with Tekken 8. It looked phenomenal.
Bully?
Fighting games start my go.
Yeah, I was saying, but I was more for me. I was impressed with the way it looked. That's all.
Oh, yeah. It looks fantastic. It's just the ones like that. It's almost like the old farming simulator. I go, yeah, it looks nice. Let's go. Move on.
And speaking of moving on, we had Street Fighter 6 was next, another fighting game, which I just actually intrigued me because the open world stuff actually looked kind of fun, and I just like the fact that you can bring your moves in, like the helicopter kick to sort of get across gaps in the city and stuff. Looks stupid as hell, but I think I might be down for it. I don't know. Again, I'm not a fighting game fan, but I can see myself playing through that campaign and stuff. I don't know if I could go through collect there and sort of, upgrade my own character as opposed to just playing the fighting part of the game. I could find a little part of that intriguing. But and Street Fighter's got this cool art style and stuff, which does sort of kind of hooks me a little bit. And this is the best showing I think they've had of it. And they've sort of been done pretty well at sort of doling out the gameplay stuff at a nice steady rate. Like, so they went our appetite earlier on. I think it was E3, and they've dropped stuff since then, and now this show. So they're showing enough to get me excited. And I think a lot of Street Fighter fans, more importantly, are going to be really excited when this game comes out.
Yes, I'm traditionally a Tekken fan. I do enjoy the Street Fighters, and I loved everything about this. But Bully, I heard you as soon as I saw the open world. I'm like, no, Bully's called this early. Open world was not the way to go. And I think from what we saw at Tokyo Game Show that I agree with you, continue to agree with you on that one, Bully.
Oh, ridiculous. So why do you have to jam things like this into it? It's a fighting game. We all know what it is. It's the old arcade. Throw your coins in, get straight into it, have the match. Why do we persist with wedging rubbish like this in?
You get to take your character to the arcade, then they get to play Street Fighter. It's a game within a game, Bully. It's revolutionary.
The only place that we take it, that's to the bin.
I love it. What's up next, Unkie?
Then we had Resident Evil Village DLC, which I'm really looking forward to because this not only adds the DLC, which apparently leans heavily on Resident Evil 2 for its gameplay, but adds the third-person mode, not only for this DLC, but back to the main Resident Evil 8, which I'm really excited to play back through Resident Evil 8 in third person as well, because as much as I do enjoy the first person Resident Evils, I have a soft spot and really do enjoy the third person experience for Resident Evil. So I can't wait to see and play that game through again in third person, which I think's November. I think we're getting this, as far as I can remember. I can't see the date here, but I know it's not far off.
Not far off at all. I like the look of it. Sign me up for more Resident Evil.
Bully, you keen?
Yeah, I will be. I reckon I got probably 75% of the way through Resi 8 when it came out, and I agree with you. I'd love to go back and play it in the third person. I love that, especially with the 2 and 3 remake and the 4 we've got coming. I much prefer playing it through like that. So, given that was coming up and then the DLC to sort of tie everything together, I don't think they're going to go back and do a third person for number 7, but I'll certainly, if they did end up doing that, I'd reckon I'd go back and play through both of them just to wrap up that whole story as a whole as well. But that's probably asking for a bit too much. 3 or 4 years down the track.
No, fair call, fair call. Next up, we had the Yakuza series rebranding itself as Like a Dragon. Obviously, Like a Dragon we got for number 7, I believe, and I think that's what it's called overseas anyway. I think the series has been called Like a Dragon for a while. I think mainstream in America, Australia, anywhere Europe, it's stuck with the Yakuza name, but over in Japan, I think it's been the Like a Dragon series for a while, so they've rebranded that, which can confuse some of us, but from what we saw of this and what we saw of some of the other, I think there was Like a Dragon, Ishini or something like that. I can't remember the name of it. I'm completely butchering.
You're on your own there, mate. I'd bail you out if I could, but I have no chance.
I can't remember what it was, but it looked really cool. I think I saw him with a sword and a gun at one point, and the gameplay looked really cool. So we're getting new Like a Dragon in 2023 as well, which is good because I really enjoyed number 7 with its turn-based stuff, but it's good to see going back to the action styles. We had Sonic Frontiers as well with a new showing. I'm more and more getting excited for this game. I think Bully's on the same token as me here. This game's actually looking like a lot of fun. Unfortunately, it does come around the same time as God of War. I think the same week as God of War, which is
There's no chance. There is no chance they are delaying Sonic, mate. It's got a clear run here. It'll be fine. It'll be all by itself.
Are you saying God of War is getting out of the way of Sonic, are you?
I'm saying God of War is running for February, mate. No chance you'll see it this year.
Mate, God of War is not... there couldn't be a firmer date for a game ever than God of War coming out of this
Has
game.
it gone gold? Have you seen the Gone Gold announcement?
It hasn't. They just announced the control
You haven't?
game as well. This game's coming. Bully, I know you're with me. Troy's a standalone here. He's got no idea about video games or when they come out because God of War is not... there couldn't be a firmer date.
Don't make me re-roll the footage of I suck at parking, mate.
Suck at guessing release dates too.
I was with you, Troy, for a long while up until I think just before the Summer Games Fest when Sony did that short, snappy state of play and they threw out the release date around that time as well. I think that was about the time that only been 3 or 4 months out. There's no way they could have wound it back after they revealed that. So come hell or high water, it's coming out. Might be ultimately to its detriment. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But there's no way in God's green earth they're going to delay that. But I looking at late October, early November, there in that 2 or 3 week period, there is a stack of stuff coming out. And if I was Sonic or the developers, I'd be going, this isn't a great time. Let's just push it back to January, February, and sort of get a bit of open air on it. That's where I'd be looking at it. I think it's just going to get trampled in the rush, and it doesn't matter how good it is, it's just going to get forgotten about by early next year.
I think the one I was going to say January, February is stacked as well now. All the good games get pushed to those months, so that's
well, yeah. When God of War lands in February, there'll be hell to pay.
Harry Potter. That's taken up the whole of February for me.
I can tell you one thing Sonic has that we haven't really mentioned. My boys are dead keen for this, and they won't even get a look in on God of War. So I think the younger audience are locked in on Sonic Frontiers, and they alone will blow up this December with Sonic Frontier wish lists, I reckon.
And admittedly, the more they've shown of this game, the better it is starting to look as well. So I've got a little bit of hope that this thing could actually be quite fun. So I think they might actually nail the open world Sonic, which they've sort of failed to do in the previous games. So, yeah, quite the optimistic about this one.
Have we heard anything regarding Game Pass or PlayStation Plus for the old Sonic Frontiers?
Nah, nothing yet.
Nothing yet? Well, I'll hold out hope. I'll hold out some hope.
Speaking of Game Pass, I'm going to go scroll all the way down to the bottom, being mindful of time that Bully has to be up in about 3 hours for work. So we'll skip to the bottom and go to the big one, which is Deathloop. We've been talking about it on G.E.A. for what seems like a while, going, where is it on Xbox? It's finally coming. It might be hitting tonight. If not, we'll have it by tomorrow, hitting Game Pass on Xbox with a brand new ending and a whole bunch of new guns and all that stuff in the game as well. Also, the news, I think, last day or so, PlayStation Plus or something's getting it as well, and they're getting all those updates on the same day as the Xbox release. So that was big to finally have launched on Tokyo Game Show.
Do you know if this patch also includes the removal of the nag screens after you die before you actually get back into the game? Have they fixed that major problem?
can confirm they are still there, Troy. So
that's a damn shame. They've almost got a good game on their hands. Almost.
They do. I mean, we won't talk too much about Deathloop because we've, talked about it at death. No pun intended. But there was also a few other games hit Game Pass as well, but most notable was the Ni no Kuni Wrath of the White Witch remaster, which I have downloaded and started dabbling in. I know Bully's a massive fan. Why wouldn't he be? It's Weeb Central, this game. This and its sequel, which I enjoy. I played the sequel, but hadn't never played the original. Partial to it because the main character's name's Oliver, just like the little fella. So that's good fun.
Nice one.
Kind of looks like him too. So that was very cute. But also on Game Pass, the remaster version looks spectacular. And I think there was news that the sequel is actually going to hit Game Pass at some point too. So very excited about that.
Excellent. Any other bits from Tokyo Game Show? Or shall we mosey on over to Story 2 for this evening?
Let's go to Story 2, the big one.
The big one, some might say the biggest leak ever in gaming history. I think that's a fair bloody call. It's been quite the, 48 hours at this point, I suppose, on the internet for Grand Theft Auto 6 leaks. Now, the one thing I'll say, just jumping ahead a little, is Rockstar went out to confirm that the footage was real, but note, fellas, Rockstar have nowhere said this is Grand Theft Auto 6. They just refer to it as the next Grand Theft Auto game.
They do, and it could be the fact because it does very much look like, if you've watched the footage, does very much look like Vice City that we're in. So whether they're going to call it Vice City 2 or just go with a Grand Theft Auto Vice City, who knows? But God, there was a lot leaked. There's like over an hour of footage on there. It's not, it's by all no means like anywhere close to finished product. So go in there with a grain of salt and what you're actually going to see. But there are a few notable things to sort of see that you've got a female and male character that's been rumoured for a while that are apparently very similar to Bonnie and Clyde, and the way that story is going to play out. The characters can now crouch and go prone without actually hitting behind cover and all that kind of stuff. So that's something, again, new for GTA. So a few things there. Obviously doesn't look the best right now, and some of the voice acting, whether it's placeholder or not, isn't exactly, top tier at this point. But this game's obviously years off from coming out anyway, so I don't think we're going to have to worry about that with Rockstar behind it. What are they really? I think there was names given for these characters being Jason and Lucia as well, so let's face it, if those names have leaked, they're probably getting changed by Rockstar as we speak anyway.
Oh, I don't think they'll be going back into the capture studio to recapture all the instances of that name. I reckon those names are locked in. But that brings me to the point... I'd love to raise with this, Steve. I'd said previously on this very show that my concern for the next Grand Theft Auto game was that the Hauser brothers were out of there, and my fear was for the writing of this story. What I love about this leak is it's all footage from 2019 when the Sam Hauser, I want to say, was still there, and clearly all the dialogue has been written, performed, captured, and inserted into the game engine before he left the studio. So my faith and expectations and excitement for this game have actually dramatically increased with all these leaks. The writing looks like a Grand Theft Auto game. I was very fearful that a new generation of writers had come in and sullied the good reputation. But from what I was able to throw my eyes and ears over on the weekend, I was reassured to no end that, oh no, this is Grand Theft Auto as we know it in a new setting, and I'm very excited by everything I saw.
Yeah, and I don't know if you saw the scene where they were sort of inside a burger restaurant thing, like holding it up and demanding cash off people. They had different contextual things for each individual NPC as well. Like if you held your gun at the NPC, you had different button options you could pick to either rob them or say different things. I couldn't quite make out on my small phone what they're actually saying, but it looks like they had different options for each NPC, which I think leans into sort of some of the Red Dead stuff where you had a lot of interactions, or you could have interactions with NPCs, but they're sort of expanding on that as well. So quite cool to see some of this stuff come out. Like, I didn't want to delve in it too much. There's obviously a lot of footage there, and it's obviously very sort of pre-alpha stage at this point. But no, it was just nice to sort of get a glimpse at it. A lot of the stuff behind it obviously is quite nefarious and all that kind of stuff. And we probably wouldn't see anything of this game for at least, another year or so if we didn't get this leak. But you kind of feel sorry for the art directors and animators and stuff that don't want their work out there. All of a sudden it is out there for them to see well before they want anyone to see it as well. So you got to sort of feel for them. I mean, the stocks, the share prices at Rockstar apparently dropped 6% once the leak hit as well, and they're already, I think, down 31% for the year. So this definitely doesn't help Rockstars at all, especially when this game's still so far off and they've got nothing, I don't think, on the cards anytime soon. So but exciting at the same time.
I guess I should probably state that I hate the idea that criminals got involved and sort of have trashed it in this way. Like, it sucks that this has happened the way it's happened. It's a terrible thing. I don't support it whatsoever. The silver lining I take away from it, though, is that script looks like it's intact. And that was my biggest fear. So I feel like my biggest fears for the title moving forward have totally been alleviated in the worst possible way. Bully, did you have any input you wanted on this one, mate?
Nothing's been covered pretty well. I just, you look at the footage for anybody that's seen. I think it's mostly down off most of the online forums now. But if anybody has seen it, it does look very rough around the edges. But knowing what Rockstar's like, that's going to get polished to within an inch of its life. And so I wouldn't, if it's an early, we say it's an early release and work in progress, and all the parties that have developed it this far have, as you said, probably a bit shattered that it's been released in this format. But I expect that there's going to be a fair bit of work, and as Unkie said, I don't think this is as much as we'd like to see it the next sort of 12 or 18 months. I can't say this for another 2 or 3 years minimum.
Yeah, who knows what their development pipeline is, but from everything I've seen, I'm just excited, and I say, Rockstar, keep it under wraps, keep working on it, take your time, get it out when you're ready. Just know that, I'm now just nothing but excited for the title.
And give me another Red Dead.
And now it's not the news, but just to sort of not outdo GTA, but Diablo 4 also had a leak as well, a very similar leak, which I did see as well. So I just wanted the gameplay went up for that as well.
Yeah, nobody cared.
I'm keen to get my hands on some Diablo 4, but I feel like Diablo Immortal is already Diablo 4, so there was nothing really in that leak that lit me up. Certainly nothing there, anticipation-wise, was alleviated or accelerated. All right, story 3 this evening. PlayStation 2 VR 2 is not compatible with the old PSVR titles. And I think, once again, Sony is just lining me up and kicking me square in the teeth. Week after week, they are just money grabbing, and here's yet another example of it. I think this is absolutely terrible. There's one library they need to write to convert. The excuse here, I want to highlight this excuse because it's the weakest excuse ever. Where was it? There's a bloody ripper of a quote here. I'm trying to hide behind it. Here it is. Sorry, it's not a direct quote, it's the summary, but they've stated that this is due to more advanced features in the new headset, including eye tracking, haptic feedback, and 3D audio. That's insane. That would be like saying you can't play a PlayStation 4 game on a PlayStation 5 because of the new PlayStation 5 controller. It's just the weakest excuse ever. They need to write one library that converts whatever the new tech is to the old tech is. It's one engineer and about 4 hours work, and then they could release the entire back catalogue of PSVR 1 games. The only reason they're not doing it is because they want me to rebuy all the DLC for Beat Saber, and there's not a chance in hell. Sony, stick your money-grabbing ways, square up your clacker. You're not getting another dime from me on this. It is just insanity that they don't write that library. One guy, 4 hours, write the library, unlock all the old games, and give up on your bloody resales of all of them. I understand it's a high-end device, it's for your high-end consumers, but this consumer is just not going to play this game. It's ridiculous. Sorry, fellas, did you have any thoughts?
No, I'm just saying not even this whale's going to pay for that, Troy.
Hey, I like it.
Wait till it comes out. I reckon there's a couple of points to that. I know you say that it's a fairly easy code to write. That look, they can't even rewrite a PS5 to run PS3.
Oh no! Well, that is a legitimate technological nightmare with the cell processor converting it to an x86 processor. That one makes sense too.
I get that part, but they've designed it and all the rest of it, and they can't even work out that. But you've got people online that are running emulators that are really a fairly decent quality. They can't get the streaming services for the PS Plus offerings that on the PS3 either. So it doesn't surprise me that they're not going to go back and back capture this. But I think the other thing, and again, there's probably an easy workaround with someone that's a bit more technologically advanced than I am, but they were talking about the light bar and the DualSense. The tracking on that was one of the main things that sort of that the original PSVR picked up, and that was going to cause issues with the new technology, and that the new hand controls or whatever it is didn't have that technology in it as well. That was going to cause issues, and
I don't believe it. I simply don't believe it.
I agree, but for most of what I've read, it's just people trying to make excuses for saying it. And I 100% agree with you. And I think I said it, if it wasn't last week, it was the week before. Sony is shooting themselves in the foot something fierce at the moment with the way they're treating the customers and the consumer. The fact that they're expecting to sell these, and I imagine that they're going to come out in the range of what the console costs itself.
Yep.
Just for the VR, and then on top of that, expecting, we're looking at $70 US price games, or $129 if you want to drop it on The Last of Us Part 1 remake of a remake of a remake. That if you're going to start asking for money, that sort of money for an old game, even if it's ported over or somehow they've made it work on the VR too. You're looking at an extra amount of money equivalent to a console. The game is on top of that, and any DLC, as you said, Troy, has gone out the window. I just cannot fathom what they're thinking without dragging it back to the previous news story with Tokyo Games Fest. Their showcase, as far as I was concerned, was apart from a bit more God of War, it was a flop.
Yeah.
And you look at what their main competition in Xbox is doing. They absolutely nailed what the Japanese audience and people looking for Japanese style games would want. They nailed it on the head. They've been nailing it this whole generation, and the best that Sony can do is just throw out their hand for some more money and then whinge about the fact that Xbox are trying to steal Call of Duty that they've tried to have a monopoly on for the last 10 years. Worked that one for me. But this, I don't know what they're thinking. To get up and slap Jim Ryan about the head is all I'm saying.
Back to your point, mate, and I agree completely. It will be a comparable price. $600, I guess, would be a fair Australian dollar guess at what the PSVR 2 is going to launch at. And for me, as a PSVR 1 customer, I had 47 PSVR 1 games in my library that they now expect me to, maybe there's 10 of those that I'd absolutely love to play again. I'm not going to rebuy 10 games. I've got 47. If it was a $600 investment for the headset, but I knew day one, I've got now 47 games that I can play on that headset, even if it's PSVR 1 on PSVR 2. But I can't use my PSVR 1 anymore. I used it so much I wore the cable through, and they want $275 to fix that. No, thank you. I'll save that $275 for the PSVR 2 if my old library were backwards compatible. But now, due to them nickel and diming me, they say, no, you've got to throw out that library of VR titles and rebuy the ones we republish again. Get out of here, Sony. It's not going to happen. Wake up. Call me when you do. Jesus, I am so outraged by this. Unkie, any thoughts from you, mate? I know you've got a PSVR 1 unit. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, mate, you guys have covered it pretty well. It seems like a money grab thing that if this file's not even willing to get on board, then they're doing something wrong.
Very good.
It is, as I said, slap Jim Ryan in the face, and I'm going to start the new hashtag bring back Sean Layden, please.
Hey, oh no, he's gone to Tencent. Did you read that article about 3 hours ago?
Oh, don't do it.
He is. He updated his LinkedIn profile. Sean Layden now confirmed working with Tencent.
Okay.
There's a written quote as well.
We're not bringing back Sean Layden if he's going to work for them.
Yeah, no, correct. All right, well, that's it for the news this week. As big as it was only 3 stories. But, of course, that brings us to Game Informer's new releases coming out this week, and we thank them for supplying this perfect list every week. I absolutely love it. My big question to you, Bully, is there any chance you want to lead us off and just run us down the list this week? Because I keep screwing it up.
Oh, you've caught me a little off guard.
All right, then, I'll go for it. Don't worry about it.
We've got First up, 17th of September, we've got Return to Monkey Island, Switch and PC. Apparently, it's getting really good reviews. IGN gave it 9 out of 10, looking really good. Deathloop, we've already discussed. It is coming out September 20. That's today. Game Informer gave it a 9. They got that wrong. That's okay. Hard Space, so that's coming to Xbox Series S, and we've also got the update for PS5 as well.
And I'm pretty sure that one's Game Pass as well as Deathloop.
It is, that is correct. Hard Space Shipbreaker is I think it's a simulator game set in space. That's out September 20 as well. PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S.
I think it's Game Pass as well before you jump through.
Thank you, Bully. We also have Jack Move on PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Switch, released September 20. Looks like a pixel art sort of RPG style game, top-down adventure that also has turn-based mechanics for its fighting. Looks quite cool. We have Solstice on PC, released September 20 as well. This one actually looked quite cool. Checked it out. Looks like a Devil May Cry style game. It could sort of say Soulsborne-y, but apparently it does play a bit more like a Devil May Cry game. Not sure if any of you guys checked that one out, but that does look quite cool as well. I'm not sure, Bully, if you've done the Game Pass check on that one.
And sorry, guys, excuse me, I'm just fighting with a technical issue this side, but please continue.
No, I don't think Solstice is a Game Pass. I was just, as we're talking, just trying to run through the release to see if we had Deathloop, and doesn't look like it's up yet. No.
Not yet, no dramas. Next up, we had Gundam Evolution coming to PC September 21. We then have No Place for Bravery, Switch and PC September 22. Then we have Serial Cleaners, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Switch and PC September 22. Then we have Session, which is a skate simulator, PlayStation 5, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, PC September 22. Looks similar to your skate games and Skater XL, I think, that came out recently. It's getting pretty good previews from all accounts from skaters out there. We have Slime Rancher 2 on Xbox Series X and S, PC September 22. The Direfield Chronicle, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Switch and PC September 22. That looks quite weeby. That one might be for Bully. We then have DreamWorks Dragons, Legends of the Nine Realms, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Switch and PC September 23. I draw your attention to an install that Troy did recently this week for Super Pets, which is a similar style game, I think. Quite a bit of fun for the kids as well, so get into that. Also on Game Pass. Then we have Shovel Knight Dig, Switch PC, iOS, September 23, and Taiko no Tatsujin Rhythm Festival. I'm glad I had to try and say that because Troy probably had no chance.
Zero chance.
That's out on Switch September 23. So we'll keep rocketing into the standoff if everyone's okay with that, because I know Bully's got work in about 1.5 hours.
Perfectly, it works for me. Let me just hit a couple of buttons as we do the stand-up.
Who will fight?
Who will fight, Unkie?
Who will fight this week? We are looking at the most memorable boss fights because, as I mentioned earlier, I fought a really shit boss in 13. I'm not sure if Lee was here when I was talking about that. One of the worst boss fights I reckon I've played any video game. So let's talk about some good ones. First up, in the standoff, we have God of War 3 Poseidon. What a way to start a video game.
And I just want to shout out just quickly off this. This is clearly designed off my all-time favourite, being the Shadow of the Colossus boss fight. Sorry, Unkie, back to you.
No, what a way to start a game. You're climbing Gaia, you're fighting Poseidon. It ends in the first-person mode of Poseidon being bashed in the face by Kratos, who then, pretty sure, if memory serves me correctly, puts both his thumbs straight through his eyes and then throws him down the mountain. So,
oh, yes.
Not a much better way to start a game than this boss fight. I'm not sure if you guys have the same opinion as me, but this game had me going back in the day.
No, I love it, mate. I'm right there with you 100%. One of the best ways to start a game, second only to flying through Dubai with a helicopter and shooting other helicopters through skyscrapers.
Spec Ops he's talking about, I think.
Indeed.
Bully?
I was very late to the God of War party because I was an Xbox 360 man before I jumped on the PS3 very late, but yeah, agree. As I said, getting into it a bit late probably loses a little bit of the graphical sort of wow factor, but certainly the fight itself was amazing, and just what they could throw together on the PS3 was, and I think it's been re-released on the PS4 as a remaster as well. So looks even better there. So if you haven't played it, jump into it. Certainly still holds up relatively well.
Fantastic. I absolutely love it. What is number 2 this evening, Unks?
Number 2, we're going way back, Mario 64, your first fight against Bowser. You fight him a few times during the game, but I had totally forgotten, going back through the footage, you actually had to play like a mini level to actually get up to Bowser before you did this. But who can forget grabbing that big oaf by the tail, spinning him around with a 64 controller and off that stage? Like, obviously, platforming games, this is where it sort of started for a lot of people, and 3D platformers, were built off Mario. And this was easily one of my favorite moments ever in a video game, and fighting a boss was, tiny little Mario swinging Bowser around by the tail and turfing him off that platform. I'm not sure about what you guys think, but this is up there for iconicness and memorable boss fights for me.
I absolutely love it, mate. Watching the footage took me way back, and it gave me a fresh appreciation for Super Mario Odyssey with how far they've come with the evolution of Bowser and how he looks, because back in the day he was terrifying, and looking at him now he's so cartoony compared to the recent iterations. But you're right, mate, high watermark in boss fights at the time. This was really something special. Still holds up today.
I still remember the first time plugging this in, and the game as a whole, it was just breathtaking. I still remember thinking at the time, even though it's, what are we talking about, 25 plus years ago, that thinking it can't get any better than this. This is amazing what they can do. And I know Troy alluded to it with Odyssey and all the rest of it, but I still think if you gave Mario 64 a bit of a lick of paint and a bit of tidy up on the control scheme, it'd give Odyssey a run for its money every day of the week.
I agree completely, mate. I agree completely.
With that 129 Last of Us remaster treatment, you say?
I would pay 129 for a remaster of this.
Yeah, you would.
Right, game 3.
Number 3, Metal Gear Solid, Psycho Mantis. I'm not sure whether you guys play this. I remember this to a T. I remember the fight just because it had one of the most unique mechanics of all time with a boss fight. Don't think it's actually been matched in terms of what it did, obviously, because if any game did it, they'd probably just be panned out for trying to do exactly what Metal Gear Solid did. But I'm going to leave this to Troy or Bully. You can explain the mechanic for this one, because it's something special.
I just quickly want to say, while Bully comes up with his phrasing for it, I just want to nominate this as a little side pot for the Standoff as best boss name ever, Psycho Mantis. I think that was a stroke of genius by Hideo Kojima. But Bully, please, mate, tell us through the mechanics.
It took a bit of working through at the time, and I remember it was sort of word of mouth in the schoolyard. That was sort of my late teens and in the last couple of years of schooling that sort of worked it out. But essentially, the boss would read your memory card in slot 1 on the original PS1, and would see what games you've been playing, and then start talking about them and what you've been doing and stuff with other games. It wasn't overly elaborate, but it was enough to sort of go, well, how do they know about what's going on here, sort of thing. And then the only way around to stop Psycho Mantis reading your memory card was to pull the controller out of slot 1, put it into slot 2, and then it couldn't read your thoughts anymore. And for the time, it was genius. It was groundbreaking, and the only person that could even fathom something like that would be Kojima. And it's still, as you said, anyone that tried to do it, that something similar would just be called a blatant absolute rip-off. But at the time, it was mind-blowing, and this wasn't in the heyday of the internet and stuff where you could just go away and Google it and work it out. It was... Yeah, you were genuinely stuck and had no idea how to work through it.
Absolutely phenomenal stuff. It reminds me just briefly that I was trying to explain to my kids what life was like before the internet is what it is today. And that's an impossible task. If you've never tried it, go and explain the world to someone under 10 that never understands that there was pre-internet. It's crazy. Sorry, Bully. Unkie, game 4, mate.
Game 4, speaking of great memorable boss fights, this is probably, for me, the best boss fight that we've had in the whole of the Batman Arkham games. So Batman Arkham City, Mr. Freeze fight, very similar thing. Doesn't have the whole controller issue where you had to sort of pull it out and figure it out, but you couldn't attack Mr. Freeze the same way, the same time to beat him. Every time you beat him, you had to come up with a new way to attack him and find him, because he would sort of mitigate whatever you did the first time, and you would have to sort of adjust your gameplay style to actually hit him again, and it just kept going, and the boss fight just sort of evolved so well, and you had to just keep coming up with different techniques on the fly to actually beat him. And by the time you've actually finished it, you feel like you've played a puzzle within this boss fight. It's not so much brute force that gets you through this boss fight, it's sort of thinking about the strategy you actually have to come up with to actually defeat him. And I just think it was an absolute genius game design in terms of boss fights, in terms of not just phases of beat this boss 3 times and you win. It was sort of trying to outsmart him as well as the brutal stuff. It was just such a greatly designed boss fight.
I agree completely, mate. This was like the tutorial level that they needed at the start of, what was the first one? Arkham Asylum for me. This game opened my eyes to everything that this game had available from an attack suite available. It hadn't even occurred to me to use 30% of the options you have until I got in there. So I agree with you completely, mate. One of the best designed puzzles in a boss fight ever. Sorry, Billy, your thoughts.
I agree. It's pretty indicative of the game series as a whole, and I can't believe we haven't had one in 5 or 6 years now. Just speaks to the way it was written and the different ways, and it's not just Mr. Freeze in the end. It's the way they do a lot of it. But I agree. There's some of the stuff you learnt doing this, and I think off the top of my head, it was probably almost halfway through the game that you sort of face him and sort of work through this sort of stuff. You wouldn't have used half of the gadgets or the tricks and all that sort of stuff at the end. But I'm a bit surprised, Unkie, that you didn't choose the juiced up Joker from Arkham Asylum as your one from the Arkham series.
Oh dear, Paul
Roberts. The most ridiculous bosses I'm thinking of.
Ridiculous. Like that game was borderline perfect up until that point.
Oh, speaking of borderline perfect, Game 5 this evening, Unkie.
Oh, borderline perfect. You're talking about my gameplay in Bloodborne, because I finished the game like 4 times and almost got the platinum. I don't quite, but I'm pretty good at this game. I'm not going to lie.
So it's only,
real gamer.
I think one of us on the stream's got a platinum for a Soulsborne game. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, you're probably saying that.
Wait, re-cue the I suck at parking footage now?
No, but Father Gascoigne, Bloodborne, there's a lot of bosses in a lot of these Soulsborne games, so very hard just to pick one. But this one for me stood out as the first boss fight that I played for a while, where you're kind of up against yourself, essentially. You're not just playing as a big monster. He's literally got almost the same moves you do, and he moves across the battlefield really fast. And there were ways to cheese him if you really wanted to, but, me being a #real game, it definitely didn't cheese him the first time or the second time. Fought him 1 for 1, but just a great setting in the graveyard and stuff. You're sort of streaming along at this point in the game. You've beaten your first couple of bosses, and then this guy sort of really starts to kick your teeth in, and just quite memorable. Just the way he sort of baits you. Then you think you've beaten him, and then he transforms and he becomes like a werewolf thing. It was just a crazy fight, and just set up Bloodborne for me is easily one of my favourite, if not my favourite, Soulsborne game.
Yeah, I absolutely love it, mate. He was really memorable, one of the memorable guys from this fight. Bully, have you gone up against him? I don't recall.
I have, and I'll stick my hand up and say #not real gamer. I have never beaten him one-on-one. I always had to ring someone into my game to help me to beat him. I could get through quite a few of the other bosses and all the rest of it. For some reason, didn't matter what I did, how many times I had to go at it, he just slaughtered me time and time and time again. In fact, I don't think I ever got close to beating him by myself. So that's how frustrating this geezer was.
I think after about 10 hours, I worked out to solo it. I just had to keep doing a big circuit and go up and then drop off that little roof there. And then you can get in 2 good shots while he's up on the ledge, and then you drop around, run the whole way around, get to that same spot, and get 2 more hits in. It's a long battle when you do it that way, but I did manage to do it eventually.
I YouTubed that many things and went to guides, and this is how you do it, this is how you cheese him, this is how you do it with, no health, losing no health and all the rest. It didn't matter how many times I looked at that stuff, he just slaughtered me.
And I think that's what makes him so memorable, though, is that he does slaughter most people. That is he's sort of a hard gap for a lot of people. That's where they stop playing the game. But if you master Father Gascoigne, you can almost master the game, because the way he moves and how fast he is, that he's sort of indicative of a lot of the enemies in the game. That sort of, even when he transforms, that he sort of takes on, the persona of one of those bigger enemies as well. So if you can really master Father Gascoigne, you can sort of master most of what Bloodborne has to offer. So that's why he, for mine, sticks in my mind as one of the most memorable bosses in a Soulsborne game.
Definitely.
I think just the jump as well, because off the top of my head, he was the second sort of main boss you had.
Yeah.
And the game's difficult enough as it is for a newcomer to the series, but certainly the jump from the first boss and what you've been doing to that point was astronomical.
And absolutely took me back to, what was it, the Order 1776, I want to say? Just the art style really landed on this guy specifically in his transformed state. It was fantastic. Standoff entry number 6 this week, Unkie?
6, and we've already spoken about God of War knowing how to start games, and my oh my, did God of War 2018 know how to start strong as well with this boss fight, which sort of just hits you out of nowhere. You've cut down a tree, it's tranquil, you're living with your son, and this stranger, they call him at the start of the game, just comes knocking at your door. Kratos, obviously much bigger than him, just sort of gives him a bit of a punch at one point, and then the stranger says, now it's my turn, and then it is on for young and old. This fight is just insane. I'm not even, for spoilers, I don't want to say too much about what happens towards the end of the game where you fight him as the character is revealed.
Yep, indeed.
Oh my God, like just the way to start a game in this boss fight, like it's so visceral, and it's not as over the top as say something like the Poseidon fight, but it's more intimate, and the way it's shot with that one camera perspective, the way it sort of moves in around all the characters, and how you start learning your mechanics, and just how he smacks into all the trees and everything's breaking around him. It's just, and out of nowhere, like Kratos all of a sudden has a character that can go up against him toe to toe. It was just, what a brilliant way to start a game, and a brilliant boss fight, and a way to set up the antagonist in the game. Just absolutely brilliant.
Fantastic stroke of genius from a narrative standpoint, mate. Strongest entry from a narrative standpoint, boss. I absolutely love this entry, mate. Great stuff. Bully, anything from you on this one, mate?
Oh no, I agree. I think it's just as epic as the Poseidon fight from number 3, but contained within that smaller environment, and much more of a direct punch with this, as you said, is what's revealed later on. That you get from playing through and being at the very start of the game, essentially, and then sort of working through where it goes from there. And I think that sort of leads into the next time you encounter him as well. That you sort of you sort of know what to expect, but then it sort of grows and grows again, like most of the God of War sort of stuff does.
Yeah, fantastic entry, mate. What's number 7?
Number 7, we have Spider-Man 2018, so same year as God of War, both absolutely incredible games in their own right, but the Doc Ock fight towards the end of this game was just, again, I think it had that emotional resonance because of what you went through with this character throughout the game, that, they sort of leaned a little bit differently on the whole Doc Ock thing. Yes, he sort of eventually became that, but the relationship that Peter had built up with the Doc over that game just sort of lent so much more emotional resonance to this fight at the end. Just when Peter's mask's ripped off and they're sort of communicating with each other, it's not even so much about the fight itself. Like, the cutscenes are happening all around, and it looks incredible. You're hitting these quick time events, but you're just in it. Like, and I replayed this game last Christmas with my little fella, and I could see the excitement on his face as he's fighting Doc Ock, and the electricity is like lighting up as the different phases happen. He's, moving around the battlefield with these like octopus arms. It just looks incredible. Easily the best fight in the whole game. Yeah. So it gets me so excited for what they're going to do with number 2 and Venom and stuff coming to the fold. But as I said, it's not even so much about the gameplay. It's just that emotional resonance while you're playing it. Everything that's sort of built to this. It was just the ultimate, not even just boss fight, but just the way to finish a game as well. I just absolutely loved it.
I agree completely, mate. The way they set Peter up against Doc Ock from an emotional, and you're right, they've established that relationship through, pick 20 hours or whatever, up to this point, and then you're right, they just turn it on its head. An absolutely fantastic narrative. Bully, from your side, mate?
Oh, I reckon just even if you compare it to the movies and anything the Marvel universe sort of does, it's almost, in my opinion, on par with what they've done in any of the movies, and probably expands on it even more just because what they can do with video games. And from my point of view, just the action, even though, as Unkie said, there's a fair bit of quick time and stuff, which is, doesn't suit a lot of games. This one it actually does, and you feel like you're almost part of a movie or engaged more in that experience, that you're not just watching it. It's almost like watching a cutscene, but you control sort of parts of it as well, which is lends to it as well, on top of what you've already mentioned with the story and the character development, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, perfect. Absolutely fantastic. Top-notch entry. Number 8, the final one for this week, Unkie?
It wouldn't be another memorable boss fight without another Kojima game thrown in the mix. So we're back to Metal Gear Solid 4, this time with Liquid Ocelot. I I couldn't believe I was doing this at the end of this game. Like, they created a whole new fighting game mechanic just for this boss fight, where you literally go one-on-one in a fighting game style arena. Where, as I said, we've mentioned earlier, this game, we don't like fighting games. This is probably the best fighting game I've ever played, Troy.
I would agree, mate. It's top-notch Kojima fineness. I agree. It's not the Psycho Mantis. Didn't have us ejecting anything from the console, though, so we've got to knock it at least 1 point for that, don't we?
Yeah, we could knock at 1 point, but yeah, goddamn, it was just such a weird thing for Kojima to do. But I just think it worked really well with with the story behind the whole thing and the way the whole fight plays out, and just to completely switch it on its head. Because I think it is, before this moment, you're kind of doing a lot of third-person shooting, not much stealth at all, and all of a sudden it just switches to this like 1v1 fight, and then let's not forget in 15 hours of cutscene you get after it, but before the game actually finishes all its credits. But no, just what a memorable moment. Like, not necessarily the most epic of boss fights, just such a memorable moment in the way it was delivered.
It reminds me a little bit of I'm blanking on his name, but old mate from France, No Way Out and It Takes Two. The way he's able to turn gameplay, just you're doing one type of gameplay and then suddenly you're doing something else entirely.
I can't think of his name either, but I see exactly what you're saying. Yeah, you just change the gameplay up and it works, it's fresh, it keeps it, it keeps the momentum going without actually changing the style of the game itself. It's just, it incorporates it perfectly within what that game already is, but just completely, turns it on its head.
It's great. Bully, any thoughts from you on this one, mate?
Oh, no, I think just you've covered it pretty well, but it's just typical of Kojima again that, I think most of the boss fights through the series, there's some little quirk or different way of doing it or different way of working through it, and this is just, sort of typical of, the mad genius that he is, I suppose.
Yeah, caps off to him. That is all our 8 entrants this week. Now, I was leaning so heavily on number 4. Going into it, I was Mr. Freeze all the way. But I got to tell you, Unkie, after your retelling of the Doc Ock fight in Spider-Man 2018, entry number 7 this week, I've put all my chips on it. What about you, Unkie? Where are you sitting?
Oh, I was sitting close to Mr. Freeze as well, and I've kind of almost talked myself into Spider-Man. I've talked myself into bloody God of War as well. For me, maybe just due to the kind of visceral nature of it and how much it did for me to start the franchise fresh, I'm maybe leaning towards God of War 2018 for its...
solid argument there for that one.
Fight there, just a way to open a brand new version of a game, and just the way they hit that boss fight so perfectly, I could go there. So it might be swayed by where Bully's leading at the moment. Where are you?
Indeed, Bully.
I'm probably way off the mark from you guys. I would have gone Psycho Mantis. I think just, we're talking about, 20 plus years since that game was released, and that is still talked about as one of the most seminal sort of boss fights that's ever existed. And as we said during the rundown, it was it's never been matched, and I don't think it ever will be. So that's probably my vote. But look, I'd be happy to go with God of War as well. That was an amazing way to kick off that game as well.
Yeah, these are all liable. I would argue this is the toughest standoff we've ever had. They are all neck and neck. These are all 10 out of 10 moments.
If we're talking just purely on gameplay, yep, they're all amazing boss fights. I think Bully's almost turned me around the fact that we saw this mechanic. We've never seen it again. It's a game that's, however old, it still gets talked about. It's on this list, for God's sakes. I mean, it's all these games that have come out more recently. I think we almost, in terms of, we're not talking amazing, we're talking memorable boss fights. In terms of memorable and doing something different, maybe we do go Psycho Mantis, Metal Gear Solid.
You've spun me on my head. I'm right there with you. I can agree. Full chips onto Psycho Mantis. So, entry number 3, Metal Gear Solid. Hideo Kojima, salute to you, sir. Fantastic work. Please keep producing fantastic games. We absolutely love them. But yes, this week, Psycho Mantis from Metal Gear Solid. A winner is you. All right, guys. That will bring us to the 4th and final segment, which is audience interrogation. Unkie, what has been happening in that there YouTube chat, my friend?
Mate, I'm going to leave this to Bully because he's been in there tonight chatting to our people in there. So, Bully, let us know what's been going on in there.
Oh, look, Matt47's been in there. He's telling me that, when we were about to kick off the show, it was 6:03 a.m. in Russia. And Syria, in fact, Russia. So, very early in the morning. So, thanks, Matt, for jumping in. He's got a couple of comments in there as well as we're sort of plugging away. But I think the funniest one that he's mentioned in there is that he'd never heard of Australia until he watched the 1979's Mad Max, and that was some 18 years after it was released. That's how he found out about Australia, and if that's where you take your lead of what this country's like, well,
I think it's a fair accurate portrayal, isn't it? Dundalini wants his hand back.
I was going to say some people might not necessarily disagree with you. That's where we're at this stage, but never mind. And then we've got a couple of newcomers in there. We've got Max Don Juice as well, just popped in to say hello.
Max Don Juice, hello, welcome.
And also Matt47 down the bottom as well agrees with me. Cyberpunk 27 was a bit of a turn off with some of the missions they had there. The brain dance missions and the open world was a bit bland for his taste as well.
Fair enough. That sounds like reasonable comments. Thank you all for contributing in that YouTube chat. But for me, I've got to say I'm off duty.
Off duty, and sorry, Bully, you're getting about, I think, 35 minutes sleep at this point.
Just go straight to work at this point. Off duty.
Apologies, Bully. You can take it out, though, on Jim Ryan. I think he's the number one candidate for some revenge if you're looking for something. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us. Viewers, thank you for tuning in. Reminder, this is episode 42. However, moving forward, I can tell you that we're moving to Thursday nights due to scheduling conflicts left, right, and centre in my little life. So I apologise. We're moving from Tuesdays to Thursdays. It'll still be 8 p.m-ish. So, it'll be the Gaming Enforcement Agency right here on Geek Aloud. Keep your eyes on the channel all week. I've got a bunch of Let's Installs planned. Deathloop's one of them. But I've got a very special nomination into the arcade room for the 23rd. The game releases on the 23rd. I won't drop the title now because I think I'm embargoed. But an absolute gem straight out of Russia coming out on the 23rd of this month. Keep your eyes on the channel. Let's Install be off then. Unkie Dunkie, thank you very much for joining me. Bully, thank you for joining me.
Anytime.
See you next time, fellas. Thank you very much for watching Geek Aloud. What else can you do with the channel? Like it, subscribe it, you'll never miss it.
Everything about it. Ooh.
Old Uncle Donkey.
Donkey.